And good evening, everybody, on this beautiful Sunday evening.
Welcome to our Sunday Night Live. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Man, oh man, are we excited to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. We had absolutely amazing time at CrimeCon.
We did. Oh my gosh, you guys, it was so much fun. We got to meet so many of you and hear where you're from and get to chat and take selfies and just meeting you and just getting to say thank you for watching our channel. We're just so grateful.
And we're gonna go over some of those highlights here in a little bit. And of course, those of you who attended the first ever
TIR meetup. I was thinking, should we call it the first annual TIR meetup?
First annual TIR
and do this
meetup.
Every year?
Yeah.
Figure that piece out.
Put your seatbelts together because the McDonough's got something up their sleeve. And that was kind of a kickoff to things that we've been thinking about and planning for quite some time. And it looks like we're going to execute. So you never know. Put your seatbelts on. But man, do we have an amazing show tonight too. And what about our mods?
We do. Yeah. Before we start, we have to thank these ladies. We love our mods. Miss Sophia, Maui Girl, Mimi J2, Laura Waldy, and Teresa M. Thank you all so much for keeping our chat classy, warm, and welcoming. And we're just so grateful for you ladies. So thank you so much.
And this young lady, man, oh man, was she a knockout on the streets of Las Vegas walking around. We had people walking by going, holy cow. And I was like, yeah, I know. What
He's a little biased.
Yeah,
we know.
And even
we love it.
We got a shout out from the queen of true crime, Miss Nancy Grace. Man, oh man, we were excited to see Nancy, and we had so many friends. We're going to show you a couple of pictures, and then I'm here to tell you we got a curveball for you in the Nancy Guthrie case. I've been studying this case, as you guys know, over and over and over again. And guess what? I got a new curve for you. Even our panel has not even seen it because I want their reaction as well. But it's nothing that nobody has seen.
And I have to say, the eye of a trained homicide detective picked it up. Chris shared this with me. And I was like, wow. There he goes again, finding something that others missed. And that's just his background experience and training. And we're happy to share it with our audience and everybody who's dissecting every bit of information on the Nancy Guthrie case, which is quite a large number of us at this point.
It's huge. But first tonight, and in the number one position is a very dear friend of mine, my old boss, and supervisor, Sergeant John Lamb, is going to be on the panel with us tonight, everybody. And
welcome, John.
John, great to see you.
Delight to be here. Sounds like I missed a great time in Las Vegas.
And you had thousands of people asking for you.
Yes, and about your books too.
About your books.
1,000 people asking about me is disturbing.
Well, speaking of disturbing, our other dear friend that's with us tonight, former motor guide, sheriff,
Under
sheriff, homicide guy. He's done it all. Mr. Bob Gilliam, we got him out of the river. He doesn't have his waders on and he doesn't have his motor boots on. But Bob, welcome to the program tonight.
Well, thanks for having me back, guys. Good to be with you, and good to be with the audience. Yeah, saw the photos you guys posted on Facebook from CrimeCon. Looked like a great time. I wish I could have been there.
We would have loved to have you with us, actually.
That would have been so much fun.
It's going to be fun. The next one's going to be in Orlando next year. Orlando. Wow. So that was in the pamphlet that they put out. And of course, batting cleanup, the doctor with not only the 10-pound, but the 15-pound, potentially a 25-pound brain, Depends on what scale you're using. The author of The New Evil, if you have not purchased his books or purchased John's, get out there, purchase The New Evil. Dr. Gary Brucato is in the house.
Welcome, Dr.
The brain story just keeps getting more and more. It's like a fish story.
So next year, Orlando. Next year, Orlando. Who knows where it's going to go from there? But hopefully, all of you can get down to the next CrimeCon. It's going to be an exciting thing. So we've got a couple of thank yous that we have to get through real fast, and then we're going to dive into the Guthrie case. First of all, there were so many of you that we got a chance to just go one-on-one with, and just share your life, share our life, get pictures together, just tell stories together. And it was so delightful. And we had so many people give us little, gifts and trinkets. And here's one of the bracelets.
Sweet Roberta and her husband. Thank you, Roberta. Shout out to her. They were so kind. They were celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary over CrimeCon weekend, and we got to spend some time with them, and they were wonderful.
And we ran into the Daily Mail, and they said, "Hello, mate. We'd like to give you one of these things right here." And they were just delightful to catch up. We saw Rachel and a variety of other people over there, and
They're a fun group.
They're a fun group. We visited with them for a little bit, and also our dear friends from Oklahoma. You know who you are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We already shouted them out.
I know, but
yeah.
I'm just
You're showing picture. Got it.
And we've got all kinds of little trinkets, the bottom for, cups and
coasters.
Your
coasters.
I'll probably send it to the guys. Thank you so much for all the time that they give here. And then a really neat book called The Glory Tree from Connie. And Connie, thank you so much for giving us this book. I haven't had a chance to read it yet because we literally got home this morning.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm going to dive into this. Thank you for autographing it to Karen and I. We are so appreciative of that. And one of the other really neat things is I got a tumbler, and they had put the interview room on it and our logo, and I'm using it for now on. It's on.
And I also want to say thank you to Cindy C. She gave us the sweetest card, and we're so grateful and for your support and sharing your story with us, and for being a TIR family member. And we're just grateful, so grateful to you and everybody who watch us every week and during the week, and come and chat or don't come and chat, just watch, however you like to do it. And so this weekend was very special for us to get to meet you, and for us to thank you for supporting our channel. As I say, without you watching, we don't have a channel.
We don't have a channel. And
so we're
Julie,
grateful.
As you can see, your palm tree is right behind us. And
yes, shout out to Julie and Deborah.
As the light goes down, the palm tree gets brighter. So that's the aloha spirit that we love to have here in the interview room. And I got to show you, we ran into a whole bunch of friends, and it was absolutely crazy. Gary, you've been, and you know how it is. John, you've been signing books for book deals, forever as well. And you get, how many people that have loved you and your 11 books out there. And you and Joyce, I bet you used to have an amazing time.
Yeah, we had a wonderful time when I was writing the mystery books at teddy bear shows.
Yeah.
And Joyce would go out and shop for teddy bears. I'd be signing books, and there was like, are we going to sell enough books to cover the teddy bears? And no, never, never was. And she would come up holding a teddy bear, and she'd go, well, what do you think? And my response was, sweetheart, just go ahead and buy it. Because if you go back and that teddy bear is gone, I'm going to have to find a suicide hotline number for you. So,
And those,
what's that?
John taught us, these are not just any old stuffed animals. These are like heirloom. These are like high end, right, John? These are like really special collector item.
They're
pieces.
made by, like some of them are made from recycled fur coats. Some of them they're made by artisans, and they're amazing works. And it had someone come up to me in 1985 and said, "No, we're going to 2026. You're going to be waxing eloquently about teddy bears." I would want to know where they had gotten the cocaine, and could I get some? But they're just that was that universe, and meeting people and signing books was a wonderful time.
And well, I tell you, and Dr. Gary, you were missed immensely by the audience. Many people came up. They complimented your music. There was one young lady that we talked to who had tears in her eyes. You just wrote a piece for her, she said. Well,
let me check.
Which I know who she was.
Okay, well, and if you haven't heard Dr. Gary's music, go over. He's got a music channel, and you can tip him for his coffee that he runs out, down the street, and does everything that he needs to do right there. But you were very much missed. Go ahead.
I think she may be somebody who challenged me to write something.
Okay, there you go.
Very cool.
Well, she said she had tears, so apparently you hit the mark.
Beautiful.
And Bob, you as well. I mean, folks were asking about you. I mean, it was just a great time overall, seeing everybody and hanging out, and that's what was really cool about it. That we didn't do a whole bunch of the presentation stuff. We met the people. We ran into podcasters, other friends that were there live streaming, and Karen and I, we get along with everybody. At least that's our motto. Karen says we're like Switzerland. She goes, our whole life. And John, Bob, you guys have known me. I mean, I try to just be as friendly to everybody, even if you put a handgun in somebody's face.
I don't know about that.
Well, I mean, at some point you got to have them tell you why they did it. So you can't go around the other side of the corner. But that said, so here's some of the highlights real fast. We're just going to run through some pictures. Thank you, everybody. I mean, Anjanette Levy and
it's always
Leslie.
So great seeing Anjanette. She's a friend of us, friend of our show. Shout out to Lindsay. She's a doll.
Yep. And does it get any better than getting a shout out from Nancy Grace?
They're real. They're not fantastical. That's how I found Chris McDonough during Brian Koberger investigation, before Koberger was ever named, I believe. I went online just searching. I had gone through everything possible that there was to go through. Please stand up. Chris McDonough is the star of The Interviewroom. And behind him, you often hear her name, Honey, his wife, as I call her. Please stand up.
So that was really sweet. Karen got a shout out from Nancy as well, and she knows that I always call her Honey. And so that was really super neat for her to do that. And then the guy on the right here in this picture, Gary, take a guess.
Well, don't put him on the spot.
Oh, I know who that is.
Who is it?
Right?
Yeah, go ahead. You
That's
give
Joey
first.
H. That's Joey H. One of our callers.
Yeah.
Caller.
What a lovely human being.
Shout out to Joey.
Just a delightful human being. Oh my gosh, we had so much fun. Anjanette ran into Jesse. They hadn't seen each other in a while, and that was such a neat photograph to take of those two. Brian Inton came up, said, "Hi, how are you guys?" And we had a chance to hang out and talk. We're going to do some stuff later on together. Cheryl McCollum, I mean, who can, get a crime scene, would you? And put her on it. She's amazing. She was fun as we were there. And of course, Nancy,
Miss Nancy.
Miss Nancy. And then Matt
Johnson.
Matt Johnson.
He's got his own YouTube channel.
He's got his own channel
formerly
right now.
of Court TV.
Yep. And of course, this was some of our meetup group. We had our own little group where we had everybody show up down at the Westin Hotel. We hung out for how many hours? 4.5
hours into the evening, into the early hours of the evening.
This was the true definition of a live.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it would be like one of your longer lives.
Yeah,
for sure.
It was. And this was, some of the group that was hanging around.
Group,
and, of course, others like, podcaster Alex at the back. We didn't even know that they were filming, and everybody showed up, and it was just a delightful time. We learned so much from each other. John Douglas was there, our executive director emeritus from the Cold Case Foundation. John was on his game with Jesse Weber there, and of course, that was a highlight. That was fun.
It really was. John said many interesting things, but the two things that stood out to me was, so John Douglas was sharing stories of the serial killers that he has interviewed throughout his extensive and illustrious career. And he said, as I wrote this down, he said, going to prison, putting a serial killer in prison is really just putting them on ice. His words. They still relive their crimes behind bars. And I just thought that was so interesting, insightful. And it really reminded me of Koberger, some of the things that we've talked about here on the channel, some of the episodes that you guys have talked about. And then the other piece that was really disturbing is that he said there's over 300,000 unsolved cases in the U.S. in the last 36 years. And I thought, wow, 300,000, doing the math, that's a lot.
It's a lot of families, a lot of victims.
A lot of families, yeah.
Yeah. And, I even had just great respect, obviously for John Douglas. I mean, he's the man. And that was Jesse did an outstanding job interviewing him.
Definitely very outstanding.
And then he did his own presentation later on in the evening. Told everybody, this is the way it works. And if you don't know, Greg Cooper in the Cold Case Foundation, we're doing the Ramsey series. And by the way, John mentioned the Ramsey case when he first started talking, which he was kind of laying the foundation for our series we got coming. It's going to be a 4 or 5 parts, remember. So make sure you join us here. He's amazing. And Greg is his protege. When John picked Greg Cooper to run the behavior analysis unit right after with John. And as John was weeding out, Greg came in, and then Greg selected Mary Ellen O'Toole. And so that was the sequence back in the day in terms of how people were working down in the dungeon. They were 6 feet under in Quantico.
60.
60? Oh, I thought it was 6.
60 feet under.
60 feet. He said they were buried lower than the dead.
Yeah, like 10 times lower than the
10
dead.
10 times lower than the dead. It was a hysterical line. And then of course our man,
Vinny,
Mr. Vinny, what a gentleman. I mean, I hope a lot of you had a chance to meet Vinny. He is just an amazing human being, and he's like us. He loves everybody, doesn't care who you are, and neither do we. I mean, we had, we did just a real quick hit on JLR. We did all kinds of things, and he was sitting 2 tables over, and we went over. He asked us to come over and say hi. We said hi, and that's just how that's just life. It doesn't mean that's who you are. It just means you just be nice to people. And that's probably the right thing to do. Of course, Josh
Ritter from Courtroom Confidential. It's always great to see him.
And Dave from Fox.
And Dave Ehrenberg, the ace attorney who's on MK Media, and he's on Fox too. Yeah. Yeah,
and I've been on both of their programs, and of course, Brian again. It was just fun. And then I had to do I had to go see if Summer Wells was up on the wall, and there was her poster. And I just want to remind everybody, we haven't forgotten about Summer. We know June is coming, and it's another anniversary. So
let me just tell, for people who can't really see this visual very well. So during CrimeCon, there's this huge board that Chris is standing in front of, and it's all of the missing people, and with their names and photos. And the idea is to remember their story and to come up and see the board and all that. And it's interesting because Chris walked right over. And I said, I want to get a picture of you in front of this. And right where he stood, almost at eye level, was the Summer Wells, heard the missing child alert, that flyer with the photo and the information. So we tried to zoom in on that. But of course, there's hundreds up there. And it's a really respectful way to remember these stories that either fade out of the media or don't get that much media attention, or just that need podcasters and eyeballs and the public's attention to try to solve these cases for the families.
Yeah. And, we haven't forgotten, and we had a really good conversation with everybody. And then Buddy found at the hotel, they had a little buffet for puppies. And after every little bathroom break, Buddy would go and grab himself a cookie.
You might want to run it with no sound, because there's, or with sound.
Good job, buddy.
Buddy's 15 minutes. Thank you, everybody.
Is that the cutest thing?
In a 17-second video. On
Okay,
Buddy.
that's the only video I will ever play back again.
Can you get a treat?
Is he the cutest little guy you've ever seen? And he was in the meetup.
Very, very, very partial to Buddy.
There he is.
Good job, buddy.
Okay, so Budzo was there. He was part of the play as well.
Bud came to the meetup. Yep, for a short time.
And anyway, it was a delightful time. Now, off
Back to business.
Off to the races here tonight. Nancy Guthrie. Oh my goodness. All right, you guys. So here's going to be the play, for lack of a better term. Now, just so everybody knows, Bob nor Gary or John, they don't know what I'm going to show tonight. I purposely like that because it keeps this program, a clarity of focus. And it also, you guys get the direct, impact on what's going on. Hang on for a minute.
It's a word.
Can you guys hear us? Okay. Can everybody hear us? Okay. Hey, as I'm getting notes here in the private chat about some things, and my wife is telling me there's no sound.
No. There's sound. There's sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
we're good.
Anyway, this is new information. Okay. Fresh information that nobody has connected yet. And so I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to deliver this tonight, because it's the first time anybody has seen it. Okay. That said, there's a couple of directions I want to go. First of all, I'm going to present this as if I was going to present to a district attorney or another investigator, or John, because John, you guys may or may not know that John and I used to work together, and he was a supervisor, and we would have these kind of meetings in various different situations. But the first thing I want to ask is, this picture here is an drone shot of the FBI and their evidence response team showing up. Okay. It's been days after, we all get that. But what's the first thing you see when you see this shot? I'm just going to throw it out there for John, Bob, and I don't know where Gary went.
Well, they all pulled in the driveway, and that's probably not appropriate. Even 4 days out, that's
bingo. Which that's the answer, Bob. And I knew you guys would, boom, it would be, here it is. All right. So I thought about that as well. That was the first thing that hit me. It was like, okay, wait a minute. This is the evidence response team. If Nancy Guthrie was taken out by a car, hey, well, they just parked on who knows what, right? The secondary thing, where was Nancy Guthrie potentially taken out of the house?
front door.
Maybe the front door. Exactly.
And down the driveway. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and so immediately I thought, holy crap, why were people not thinking in a total clarity? And if they did this kind of stuff, it explains why the mat is still on the porch. Okay. It also explains why there are anomalies off to the right with the garage door open. Okay. And this is where I want to go tonight. I want to talk about two principles. And I'm going to also reveal something that nobody has caught yet. And I'm just going to tell you right now, you're going to put your seatbelts on, because I think the blood changed directions. And I'm thinking maybe there wasn't a car right away in this vicinity, which could change the direction of the investigation here. And I'm gonna bring the receipts and qualify it. Okay. So if anybody's watching from a news agency, pay attention, because this is going to be breaking news. Okay. So if we first take a look at the anomalies here, we can see what appears to be a pattern of life type of car movement. You can see that far right tire track, okay, and how it turns into the driveway or towards the garage, correct? John?
Yeah. Yeah, that looks to me like it's a commonly used path where that's not just one track. That, at least in my opinion, that is a well-traveled area of the driveway, the gravel driveway.
Okay, John, thoughts? Oh, you're muted, John. You're muted, but that's all right. Go ahead.
It's the same path, and it would suggest to me that if it's the same path, it's the same path that a driver who is visited repeatedly would take.
Okay, I love it. And of course, we see the hose there. So it could be also the quickest path for water to be leaving, potentially, if they're watering, or if it's raining. But at some point, a car would have to make that indentation to create that groove path and the type of gravel that they have right there. So,
and there's a curve to it, back away from the garage, more toward the bushes. You can see where it curves in. So obviously it's somebody turning in toward the garage door, turning left, or backing, in, but most likely just turning left straight forward into the garage or toward the garage door.
Perfect. So then I started asking myself the question, Nancy Guthrie, we're always looking for patterns of life, right? We want to know her driving the blue Subaru, does the blue Subaru, take certain paths? You know, do friends, does the pool guy, does the RP, you know, do folks that are familiar with this home come around all the time and, you know, use this as a pattern, you know, to get in? Okay. All right. Now, the second thing that I noticed was off to the right there. You see that group of rocks
surrounding the tree.
Surrounding the tree.
Mhm.
To me, they just looked out of place. Didn't look right. DLR. Okay. You've got a circular grouping of rocks around a tree, and then you have 3 or 4 of them, okay, that are just kind of off, like, you know, what's going on here? Would the gardener do this? You know, is there something else going on here? Because we've heard stuff about doors being opened and items being used. Okay. And so I just kind of put that in my let's kind of take a look at this later on bucket. Okay? Because even if you look to the left where that one FBI agent's standing, the third one down, the girl, you know, those are kind of little scattered in there too. Okay? They're just kind of off there. But the ones on the right over near the gate or getting closer to the gate, it's kind of like, okay, is the landscaper doing this? You know, who's leaving the phone or the hose, you know, unwrapped like that if she has a lawn service, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So I just kind of thought, okay, we're going to come back to that. This is day 6, by the way, as you can see that. And then I asked myself, okay, let's take a look at the Subaru. And I wanted to see if those tire impressions line up with the trajectory of the Subaru. And you can clearly see that's not the case.
If she were to back straight out,
Mm-hmm.
if
Right.
anybody driving that car would have come straight back.
Right. Exactly. John, Bob, thoughts on just looking at this particular picture and thinking to yourself, what?
Well, I agree with you. That is not pardon me, the pattern in the gravel is not consistent with where Nancy's car is parked. And I don't know if you guys are like me, but when I pull in my driveway and into my garage, I use the same path every time. And I park my cars, plural, in the garage in the same place. I know exactly where I need to be. And I have a truck, so I don't have a ton of room in the garage. So I'm parking it in the same place. So, but those tracks are not consistent with where Nancy is parked.
John?
The other thing I'm noting is that along with your observations that the tracks don't line up, and yes, when I pull into my garage, it's along the same path. What I'm also noticing is that those tire tracks, which we're seeing at the bottom of the picture, going into the garage, stop. They don't go into the garage. It suggests to me that the vehicle was stopped at the garage door. My other question would be is how often Nancy drives her vehicle. Is it possible that she hadn't driven it in a while and it wouldn't have left tracks? But the distinctive tire impressions that I'm seeing there that don't line up, it looks to me like the vehicle was stopped.
Yeah. And, right. So we start looking for, could this have been from the vehicle the night before and she was dropped off? Right. Was that the first impulse or thought process you had, John or Bob?
My first thought with that, though, Chris, is that if you're going to drop her off, you seem to be pretty far over to the right if she's in the front passenger seat. I would have anticipated a more central approach to the garage just so that she's not going around, working her way around the vehicle. But, that's speculation on my part.
Okay. Bob, any comments? Gary?
I'd kind of echo what John just said. I agree. If you're going to drop your 84-year-old mother who has mobility issues off, or mother-in-law off, you're going to make it convenient and as easy for her as you possibly can, and you would not pull way over to the right, as John indicated. So, yeah, I would agree with that, and at least that makes sense to me.
And so I didn't put it up here, but I went and I looked to see where the reporting party would have parked. And once the house was turned back over, they parked up near where the tree and the white rocks are, almost like pulled straight in. Okay. And so I thought about that too. And I'm not seeing a whole bunch of, impressions in, from this particular angle or from this particular position. So then I started thinking to myself, okay, you can see that track even clearer in this particular picture. You can clearly see this vehicle has taken that route many times. But then I asked myself, is it this vehicle? And I wasn't able to get the width of the tire tracks, but I am curious because I have a similar vehicle. I actually own one. And so I've done some measurements and I've done some estimates. So I don't have those. I don't want to go there just tonight on this piece. I'm going to tie that in on our next broadcast. Okay. But I thought it was, pretty interesting that, the narrative right now is dropped off 9:48, garage door goes up, 9:50, the garage door comes down. Now, the other anomaly that I wanted to point out to everybody, and Karen, any thoughts so far, hon?
Just that I would say in this picture, I can see you closer to the garage, you can see, I'm pointing to it, Chris, you guys can't see it, but that looks like a faint tire track. If Nancy were to come straight back, just roll back, that seems like a worn track there. And it's clearly over to the right more than that really grooved tire tread that we're talking about.
Yeah, the one you're referring to, Karen, would be in line with Nancy's path of that vehicle.
Right. And it's interesting that hers is more faint than this deeper groove. And the obvious question is, to your point, Chris, what's her pattern of life? When was the last time she drove the vehicle? And how often did she get picked up by anybody, whoever was going to take her places that would, create that deeper groove.
Yeah, I don't see an Uber driver pulling up to her garage. And if they did, we don't have the garage activation on a data point like we do when she was dropped off at the garage. I mean, the narrative is 9:48 dropped off, garage door goes up. So we have to assume that's her point of entry into the house. 9:50, the garage door goes down. The reporting party says that's the last time we saw her. Okay. And so you have to take, that as potentially gospel. We don't know exactly if there's any other data points on the garage, and we've hammered that one for quite some time. But to Karen's observation here, the one on the left, if you look at that, you also see down in the bottom right-hand corner what appears to be a clear tire impression. And you would have thought that if she drove over that tire impression to the bottom right where you see the green, you just look right up above it, you can see it's kind of a swinging arch almost going right to left, just a little bit down at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You would think that lines up also with that tire. And you would think if she were to back out straight out, she's going to drive over that tire impression. Okay. And we don't have that here. So that was the first thing. The second thing, obviously, we talked about it before, but we want to remind the audience, if you look at this picture, look at the door in the garage and look at the slab and another mat in the garage. Okay. Well, that mat is still here as well. So if the suspect is malingering around in this house, doing whatever he's going to do, because remember, there's 39 to 41 minutes unaccounted for. And they didn't take the mat in the front. They parked on top, even the FBI did. They parked on top where if a vehicle was used and she was taken out the front, then they parked over where the suspect vehicle potentially could have been parked. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's this photograph right here. And Bob nailed it right off the bat. Okay. So that led me into thinking, okay, wait a minute. You can see now the rock anomalies there a little bit better and how close those rocks are to the gate. So I thought to myself, maybe it's not a flower pot or anything like that. Could it be a rock? Because the suspect showed that he turns around and he just grabs a bunch of weeds. Now, one of the interesting things, we had one of our viewers at our meetup last night talk about weeds are used in Wiccan and to release spirits. We were like, what? But it was great the way it came out. She goes, do you think if anybody was, in the circle or, connected to Nancy, that she could have, been using, that, or somebody could have been using the weeds, and maybe it's not one of those two people, but maybe it's somebody connected to those friends or something to that effect. And they were releasing any kind of energy from that house, or thinking they're releasing energy from that house. And she also pointed out that night was supposed to be some type of holiday or something to that effect. Now, the great thing about investigations, you listen to everything. And you go, you know what? That's a really interesting point. Because we also had a cardiologist in the group last night. And the cardiologist person, somebody that's been in the business for over 40 years, said, her pacemaker spiked for a reason. And this person gave us an education on there are two parts to a pacemaker. The first part is the pacemaker itself, which creates a defib to keep the heart moving. Okay. The second part is if the heart is about ready to have a heart attack, it shocks the heart. The pacemaker goes and sends an electrical shock into the heart. And this person said that was the spike. And also related that it's at that moment she potentially could have had a cardiac arrest. And the pacemaker is designed almost like paddles. Hit the heart. And this person said that's what happened to Nancy. Not that it disconnected from her watch. Okay. It registered a cardiac event, and the pacemaker responded by giving it a shock. Okay. I was like, well, there you go. That's interesting. New information. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, the first thing, and those that know more about this, forgive my ignorance, but the pacemaker doesn't have a huge battery in it. How much of a shock could a pacemaker give the heart?
Well,
I don't know.
It depends on the type, and they're monitored in the cardiac offices of whoever her doctors are. So literally the doctor or whoever depends, because she was on blood thinner also, they said that she could have had, a much more robust version.
So in other words, you're saying that at 2:28 a.m., you're saying that it didn't indicate that Nancy was leaving the home or X number of feet away where the disconnect would happen between the pacemaker and her watch. You're saying that it's potentially a cardiac event that happened to Nancy, and that's what registered at 2:28.
Right. So we think about it like this: you're sound asleep, your hearing aids are off, you're 84 years old. Next thing you know it, somebody's over your bed. Okay. Boom. You're in fear. You're in shock. I mean, Gary, what happens to the body, from a position of, medical knowledge? What happens to the body when somebody goes into a fight or flight?
Well, I mean, psychologically speaking, a person in a shock state can experience sometimes accelerated motor ability, like, for example, the person who can, lift the truck off of her child, that kind of thing. Or you can have an individual who autonomically is sort of, out of breath with wide eyes and panting and terrified, and the heart is, and the tachycardic and the whole thing. But that's from a psychological perspective, I think you'd need a medical specialist to get into, what adrenaline is doing and all of that. But I think the idea is that there are a wide array of things that can happen when people's nervous system is under that kind of pressure. And then, of course, there are all the psychological effects like trauma, difficulty accurately recalling information associated with that moment, because of, which is the problem with things like eyewitness testimony, because people can be so upset at the moment that they think they remember correctly, but they don't. So it's really the whole shebang in terms of what can happen to a person. But I think it's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was 40 years in the medical cardiology business. It was like, they presented the idea of, maybe you're looking at this incorrectly for a moment, because if in fact it was, just even a simple impulse to the heart, that what it was trying to do is keep the heart beating. Okay. Not necessarily, disconnecting from the watch on purpose. Okay. I.e. say separated. The hypothesis was she could be on her way out. I mean, through a cardiac event. And maybe that explains some of the, inability to make it to the front door, and she falls, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it was a great conversation. It was an absolutely wonderful conversation, and I absolutely loved that thought. And then the Wiccan piece, came very interestingly to the conversation as well. Do you remember that part, honey?
I don't, but I wouldn't necessarily put a lot of, it's an idea, but I think it's a little out there, I'm going to be honest. And we don't really know why he picked up those flowers, i.e. weeds, desert weed / flower. I don't think we do. I would not connect it to something larger, more important. It seemed impromptu.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem smart. So that's my take.
And so, but it got me thinking a new way. I started thinking, okay, well, if that's possible and she's bleeding, I started looking for, possibilities, probabilities. And you see the picture on the left is at the pool house, right? It's not the main house. It's the building to the right. If you'll see that far building on the left there. But they're down low at the door. I don't know what they're doing at that door, but it's low enough with cameras. They're taking photographs of something down there. And
do you know what day this was from?
This was within, a couple of days. Okay. This is the evidence text. Okay. And so then I went back to just looking at the door for a minute. Now, this is not the same door. It's the same design. I found a company in Tucson that manufactures these custom doors. And they had a picture of the design, but that's a custom design. But if you look at the hook in the middle with the hearts, but look at the hook, on the one to the right, okay, this is a custom door manufacturer. Now, the one on the right obviously is round, but they make a square one like that on the left. These doors are $3,000 to $8,000 a piece. Okay. So her door was custom made. And you'll notice the lock mechanism on the one on the right. It has two options. Deadbolt, twist, which you can see on the one on the right, or key only. So I think we're correct in our hypothesis that the suspect had to manage opening the door. He had to, whoever this person is, had to manage the victim. And he had to manage if there's a car or somewhere to get her moving, which led me thinking, and this is the new information that people are going to go, wow, that's interesting. We have been so focused on the porch that we may have missed a huge clue. And that clue was out on the walkway. At the end of the walkway, where all the DAs were focusing.
Are you talking about the railing we're looking at?
No. See the walkway hum?
Yeah. Isn't that a railing at the bottom?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you see, these DAs were up on the porch. Okay. And everybody's been up on the porch and they've been focusing on the porch. Well, I thought, you know what? I'm going to have a paradigm shift. I'm going to shift my mind to the walkway. And so for probably 3 or 4 days, I've been studying the walkway, not the porch. Because we all kind of figured, okay, she came out that way. Okay, good. Well, that means there has to be a direction of travel. And I wanted to see if, in fact, they took her down that stairwell and put her in a car. And guess what I discovered? You see this guy with the phone in his hand? And you see the DAs all looking down, getting a briefing from the FBI guy or the evidence guys. Anybody disagree that's probably our evidence guy? Right? John? Bob?
No, that's
right.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah.
Or lead detective, right?
FBI ERT maybe.
Okay.
Team leader.
All right. Notice where they're focusing. Okay. They're watching this blood trail move in all three of these photographs, but the one guy in the suit there takes his phone out. And guess what he does? He starts photographing trajectory, movement in the blood. And I thought to myself, I got to find that crack in the front porch, or excuse me, on the walkway. Okay? And I've put arrows on the different blood. Now, Fox News walked right up to this thing and they videotaped it, but they walked right past it. And you can't grab screenshots enough. But the one picture on the right, you can clearly see that blood pattern is an anomaly to the 90-degree blood patterns. John, thoughts, just initial impressions looking at what we've got going here?
Well, you have tracked a movement from the porch where everybody was looking at the stationary 90-degree drop. Somebody come, and I don't have an orientation as far as the rest of the walkway, but very clearly there is a directional change on that walkway.
Mhm.
And so, like you guys are thinking, Karen, thoughts?
No,
before
keep
I
going. It's
moving?
very interesting.
Okay, so let's hypothesize. Okay. They're looking at it and they're going, what the heck, over? And this is what I caught. And it was kind of a, one of those, remember how we would sit in the briefing room and we'd go over all this stuff and we'd go, holy crap, we missed that. Okay. Well, here we are, whatever, 100 and something days later. And we can now say, oh my gosh, this looks like a directional change, just what John said. And then I went looking for evidence that showed that, and I hit this picture.
So if you're walking up to the house, they're looking off to the right.
They're looking down. Yes.
But if you're leaving the house, it's toward the left.
They're standing, looking at a directional change of blood off of the house right here. And this guy pulls his phone out and they're all staring at this because this is the directional change. Okay. And he takes a video of it.
So just to be clear, explain which way the directional change went.
This way.
So if you're coming out of the house, it's to the right.
If
you're facing the house, it's to the left.
It doesn't make the end of the walkway. That's new information, folks, if that is what they were looking at.
Chris, could you just, for the audience, drive home the implication of that, of what you're suggesting? Because you're putting something down, but I don't think everybody's necessarily picking up what you mean. So what exactly are you saying is the implication?
Well, we're presupposing that she was taken out and put into a car.
Right.
Straight down the driveway. I mean, straight down the walkway, when in fact that doesn't appear to be the course.
It doesn't, this right here, see the way they're looking at it and the way they're now walking in the direction of where this blood appears to be turning. If you look at the picture on the right and the upper picture on the left, the very upper spot there, it's trajectory that is moving. It's no longer straight down. That is a tail. Okay. So that blood is moving. That means the victim is moving or they're moving her, however that process is, okay, however that's taking place, but it's moving not towards where a car would be parked. It's moving away from where the driveway is and along that little path right there. And then I found this.
Okay, Chris, go to the porch guy video.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Go to the porch guy video where he picks up the flowers and starts to stand up and looks right in that direction.
Well, I remember. No, you nailed that, and I think everybody knows it. Okay, he looked, and there's no question about it.
He's looking right in that same direction.
Yep. And so here's that question now, right? You can clearly see they're seeing what they're seeing, and they saw it first. Right? I think it would be fair to say the evidence folks that are there earlier told the DAs, and that guy is briefing them, and that's why he's got the phone out, and he's saying, look, this appears to be a directional change here. Agree, disagree?
Well,
Could be.
yeah.
Could be.
It's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Why else would they be following that path? Because clearly they're following a path. And then there's another evidence tech looking at something on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. And he is looking through this path here on the picture on the right, that little, just before it hits the end of the stairs, it turns potentially. Now, in our experience, we can tell you guys, it doesn't mean she was taken that way. It means that could have been a consideration of escape with her.
Are you saying there's traces of blood on that little path that we're looking at?
Where
they're walking? So
yes,
you're saying
this
there's
is
blood coming off before you get to the end of the, whatever that walkway is. You're saying it's heading to the left.
Yeah. If you look at the photo in the upper left-hand corner on this slide here, okay, they're staring at this. Is everybody in the chat? Are everybody tracking us here? I'm suggesting the upper left-hand photo, and there's better pictures of it. They're staring at this. Because the gentleman in the baseball cap with the red brim is briefing them about the direction of the blood. They were up on the porch. They got 90 degree. They've got other blood aspiration, etc. And then now they've turned away and they're walking down the porch, and he's telling them, okay, and we've all been here in terms of if you've ever been in a high profile thing with the media all over the place, you could be in that porch and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to show you where it goes, but don't make it obvious so the media doesn't pick up.
Well, let me ask you this. Are you saying that you're hypothesizing that the blood is basically, the blood trail is coming off the walkway earlier? So it's from the porch on the walkway, but it's not to the top, to the driveway. You're saying it turns left to that path.
Well, if you were coming out of the house, it would turn right.
If you were coming out of the house, it would turn right. Are you suggesting whoever took Nancy took that path with her? That she was taken on that path out of the house?
I'm suggesting that is a possibility based on the blood evidence that we're looking at. And I think they thought it as well, because they turn and right there, look at the gal in the middle. She's looking down, and the other guy took his camera out to show the path.
Do you still think that a car on the driveway would have been the exit for getting Nancy in the car and out?
That's the $1 million question now.
Okay, so what if there was somebody there, and that's why porch guy looked over there, because something certainly caught his attention, and that's why he looked in that direction. At least that's the way I see it. And so maybe there was something there. Maybe there was something staged there. Maybe there was another person there. I don't know. It's all obviously it's speculation, but it's definitely something to consider, in my opinion.
Stay there on your thought. I'm trying to pull it up with porch guy. Hang on while you're thinking about all that. Hang on for a minute. Sorry. Yeah, I remember that moment, right, where he pauses just for a second, Bob.
Yeah, and you know, you can't. I can't tell if he is acknowledging somebody, if he's motioning or giving a little, you know, head bob to somebody over there. But something catches his attention just as he comes up after picking the weeds out of the flower bed there.
So what would be interesting is, for Chris, to your theory, like how far down, let's say you keep going straight, coming off from the house out, how far out the blood droplets are, you know, if you're there looking at it. And to your point, you're saying based on what we're seeing in photos, it's taking, if we're looking at the house, a left turn. I wonder if the blood on the ground is stops and juts left, or to this point to the right.
Okay, hang on. I got to grab one more. Sorry. On porch guy. But keep thinking.
John, what do you think of Chris's theory here?
I guess my question would be, is we don't have information, is if there's any further blood on the walkway past where you can see the change in direction. But if there isn't anything beyond that, I don't know that we can come to. I mean, we have to accept as a hypothesis that for whatever reason they made a right turn. There you go. He's looking exactly at that spot. You're right, Bob.
Yeah. So the more I was thinking about that, and to your point, Bob, okay, I was like, man, what if we got it? What if they have a car staged away, which means she becomes quite problematic to get her out through the front and to maybe over into another area where a vehicle could park.
You mean not on the driveway?
Not on the driveway.
Well, my question would be, Chris, is the vehicle parked within the premises of her property, but was it placed in such a way that it would be less visible from the street?
Yeah.
I guess then we don't have enough of a.
We need an overview shot. Yeah.
The reason it matters is because it changes the narrative on how Nancy Guthrie was taken out of that house. Meaning, did she walk out on her own? Could, the trajectory change on that blood? Did they pick her up and start carrying her from that point? Does that explain a little bit more on the porch why that's 90-degree and asphyxiation, blood where she coughs? There's a lot of reasons for that, because when we look at this and we go, okay, well, wait a minute. If you look at these two people here, they're staring at the blood down at the end of the walkway. What you would expect in a debrief is you would expect these individuals to follow the blood. And then talk about, we think she got in a car over here. But what caught my eye was they didn't do that. They stop, they're thinking, and they stopped right here looking at the end. And so I went to find out what the heck were they looking at. And then I see this guy pull his phone out. And this guy changed the trajectory after I looked at what was down there, what they were probably looking at. And these are the pictures of the blood on the patio or on the walkway. And you can clearly see, what we would call anomalies and trajectory change. And then I see the guy take the phone out and everybody turn to the right. They don't go down to the end of the walkway. That's why it matters. Because maybe Miss Guthrie wasn't taken down to the end of the walkway and thrown into a car.
Yeah, maybe no vehicle was pulled into the driveway because whoever it was didn't want to leave tire impressions. So they walk her away from the scene or carry her, however she is transported. But this shows some obvious level of planning that they're aware of tire impressions.
Yeah, that's a great point in of itself, John.
So how does the circular driveway wrap around between the paved street in front and this area that you're pointing out, Chris? I'm trying to get my orientation on the front of that.
Yep.
And so, and then how far is the roadway, the paved street, city street from that point? Could they have, I would find it hard to believe they would leave a car on the road and take her out to the car, but remember it's pitch black at night there from what everybody says. So that's not outside the realm of possibility.
Great point. Go ahead, Karen. What were you saying?
No, I was going to say, look, we've heard on a good day she can barely walk to the mailbox. With the trauma, right? She's sound asleep. She doesn't hear anything. All of a sudden, there's at least one person, one bad guy standing over this poor woman in her bed. Something happened. She's her pacemaker does something. I mean, there's a physical, obvious reaction. By the time she gets to or through the front door, there's blood. I don't see her walking out of the house. At 84 years old, I see her being carried in some way, something. I just don't see her walking.
Okay, so, and I agree with you, Karen, but I think we all agree that we have at least two suspects here. So if we have two suspects, why can't they, if she's still alive when they bring her out, two people can easily grab an arm up under her armpit, grab her and walk her out, whether she is able to walk or not, and get her out to a vehicle or whatever is out there. So I don't think that's too far-fetched.
So this FBI, where the FBI truck is, Bob, you can see where it arches out and then it shoots down to the street. But then you'll see also a path to the right.
Right, that goes to that side gate.
Yeah, well, it goes towards the patio, towards the porch.
Yeah, and there's a gate back around there by those trees, if I remember correct.
Right, and then there's photographs of the DAs in the back where the green grass area is going to the pool. Okay. Those guys are filmed standing at this gate with one of the guys pointing towards, it would be northwest. And so it would be in the same trajectory of where they're at the end of the path and they turn. And they spend a lot of time up here in this upper left-hand quadrant searching. And so you just wonder, okay, and I don't have that picture right here right now. I only went as far as this tonight. We can do that on episode number 2. Okay. But all of this area up here in the upper left-hand quadrant, they spent a significant amount of time there. Now, why is that important again for people? Because this potentially changes a little of the thought process in the suspect.
Yes.
Say it again, Gary.
I said yes. That's exactly.
Yeah, and that's why I set you up for the answer. I was going to say, Dr. Gary, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it alters what we think about the intelligence level and the pre-planning and the degree of scheming and all of that. But I just want to understand, Chris, for the audience's sake, just to make it very straightforward. Are you suggesting that this is potentially consistent with some degree of staging?
I'm suggesting not necessarily staging as a whole. I'm suggesting that if in fact we know that she came out of that area, the blood trail that we're seeing here, from my observation, is leaving the house. So it would have had to start up on the porch, come down the walkway, and the most significant movement is the picture on the left, the upper left-hand corner. You see that tail, Gary?
Yeah.
It looks like a comet.
I see it.
That is something moving right or left to right.
Indicating the direction she could have been taken.
Indicating the direction the blood is traveling and the victim potentially. The one on the left picture, where you see that L-shape looking glob there, okay?
The upper left?
The right-hand picture.
Oh, in the right, okay.
The arrow at the top. Okay. That is a thicker blood stain. That means it could have come from a deeper bleed.
But just to be clear, Chris, are you suggesting that there's any degree of trying to make it look like something happened other than what actually happened? Or are you just saying that if you look at the evidence more carefully than has generally been done, you can infer a different narrative?
Yeah, I think you can infer potentially that she was alive, moving, or she was dead, and this is just leftover blood, because you don't bleed when your heart stops.
Right, but you're not suggesting that anything was altered to give a different impression.
Not that I'm seeing here at the end of the driveway.
Just because the audience keeps saying things like, "Oh, it's evidence of staging. It's evident," and I just want to make sure that everyone understands what you're saying.
Yeah, no, that's not my opinion right now. John, Bob?
No, I don't think it shows staging. What it does show is that there was some level of planning here that wasn't direct. It wasn't like, let's go from point A to point B, go down the walkway to where the vehicle is. There's something a little bit more Byzantine to the movement of this poor woman.
Does that imply last minute change of plans because something went awry outside?
Well, and that's what Bob was talking about with this guy, in the video, staring in that one corner.
So go back in there. Somebody in the comments, and I've heard this from other people too, say that porch guy taps on his wrist or something. And I haven't really seen that, but let's see if we can pick it up. Just as he's motioning or looking rather at the in that direction.
I couldn't
Yeah.
tell. Do you want to
Yeah, I couldn't tell either.
Yeah, I think he does look in that direction and he grabs the weeds.
But to Bob's point, somebody says there's a tapping going on.
Right, as if it's a signal. Is that what
Yeah.
you're implying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it personally.
Yeah, I've heard it, like I said, I've heard it several times over the last month or longer.
Chris, I want to go back to all right. So if you're saying the blood is taking a path off the walkway based on what you're seeing, what does that tell us about what the suspect or suspects did in getting Nancy out of there?
Well, if we look at this one here, he comes from our left, the right side if you're facing the house. Okay. So he comes from his right, but he would be leaving based on the blood that I'm suggesting here. He'd be coming up here. Okay, let me back up here for a minute. Okay. If he were to keep going straight down this pathway with Miss Guthrie, he turns to the right with her to the area that he was just looking at a moment ago, or that he's going to look at here. And so think ahead of, he's already got Miss Guthrie with him in front of him, hypothetically, or carrying her, whatever he's doing. Okay. Her blood is at the front of the doorwell or door threshold. And now it's moving out that direction towards the street. It goes out towards the end of that walkway and then all of a sudden takes a right turn.
Before you get to the railing out there.
Correct.
So
that's what
maybe no one's touching the railing.
Maybe there's not.
It makes sense, Chris, if this person knows the camera is operative. That's the reason why the vehicle remains as we're looking to the right, because they don't want the vehicle in the camera. It lens.
Great point.
So they make their way at some point, which tells me, and again, I'm theorizing, this person knows the camera's here. They know the camera's operative. Now, maybe they don't think that it's going to be available, but they're not going to take any risks. That's the reason why the vehicle has been pulled right in front.
Yeah.
Great point. Great point, John.
So if Nancy's off on that like little pathway with the suspect or suspects, how come we're not seeing blood from there on the driveway getting her into the vehicle?
Because we don't know where the car's parked yet. All we can go off of right now is this picture on the right shows a shift change. The picture on the left shows a shift change. It's moving. Okay. This one up here in the upper right and the upper left-hand corner is the most obvious shift change. And then when we look at what they're thinking, because they're seeing the same thing I saw and that John saw too. I mean, remember, this is the first time he saw this tonight, guys, in the chat. So John had the exact same impression that probably all of us are going, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? Now, because if we think through this potentially, if that blood were to continue all the way past the railing, et cetera, well, then you would expect these guys, the debriefing, you would expect them to, follow that blood trail to where that sheriff's truck is. And they'd be staring, they'd be looking down going, oh, hey, there's blood here. Look at this. They must have put her in a car. John, thoughts?
Well, the fact that the sheriff's vehicle is parked there tells me that they aren't looking for evidence there. I mean, they parked a sheriff's vehicle right in the spot where initial thoughts were, until we saw the videos, where the offender's vehicle would have been parked.
So where do authorities think the getaway car was parked?
Well, at this point, the only thing we can think of is that I can think of is she was moved basically in a 90-degree angle to the right, and there's a trail that begins to go through the dirt. We don't know whether there was more blood recovered from the soil. We don't know that at some point, once they were out of view, that there wasn't a tarp used to help remove her as call it just as a makeshift not gurney. I'm drawing a blank here, but makeshift to carry a person,
like a stretcher,
like soldiers do in wartime. They will carry wounded. What's that?
You mean a stretcher?
Yeah, stretcher, makeshift stretcher. That in wartime, that has been a long used ponchos to carry wounded people. It could be used as an impromptu stretcher. And that may be why the blood is no longer visible, but we know that we're assuming at this point, and I agree completely with Bob, porch guy is looking at somebody, a waiting second conspirator or Confederate standing there, and they're moving her, but there's just a limited amount of distance in the middle of the night that they're going to move her. So that's my take on it. Is the vehicle is there, possibly backed in someplace if there are rocks, and maybe that's the reason why your rocks have been disturbed, is the vehicle's been backed in and hit some of those rocks.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any pictures that the blood went past the railing. I looked at the video of Fox. I looked at the video of Brian Enton. I know it goes up to that area, and for all we know, if she was alive, she could have said, "I can't get down. I got to do something," and they moved her. They moved her.
Or she was fighting.
Or she was fighting, because this is clear.
She may very well have been fighting them right there where those AUSAs are, those evidence people are.
Chris, I've seen some comments that people are not clear of what I meant, and that's okay, because I certainly could have phrased it better. What I'm talking about is that it's been speculated that porch guy had a tarp in his backpack. A tarp can be unfolded and laid out, and a person can be placed in it, and people can grab either side of the tarp and use it as a makeshift stretcher. So no, I'm not suggesting they brought a stretcher along. What I am saying is that it is a way to transport a non-ambulatory person with a tarp, and that would also account for if there's no more biological evidence found in the soil beyond that point.
Or a makeshift body bag.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing that, especially if there were two suspects, that Nancy would be physically able to be fighting at the end of her walkway. It just doesn't seem logical to me. Again, we don't know, but with the amount of blood right there at the front door, I mean, to your point, Chris, if she was still alive and with bleeding, I mean, she's frail. And John, for two people to carry somebody like a makeshift stretcher, you have to have two people, one on each side for sure. Obviously I could be very wrong. It's just my opinion, but I think they had full control over her at that point, and it was potentially a matter of whatever the plan is to get the car up there and get her out.
Well, a person that is in that position is going to be in flight or fright mode, and you would be amazed at what people can do regardless of their age, their mobility, etc. She could have been putting up some kind of fight at that point. That's not, I don't think you can take that off the table at all. Especially if one person or two people are carting her out and they're trying to get her to walk out to a waiting vehicle to put her in there. And they have her, one on each arm, and they're carting her out, and all of a sudden she starts fighting right there, where they're all looking.
My only issue, Bob, with the fighting idea is that nobody reported hearing any screaming or noise or anything. I mean, don't you think somebody in the middle?
Well, nobody reported seeing Porch Guy either, but he was clearly right there, and there was some activity there, Gary. So
right, that's
and
true.
Nobody reported any of that. So I don't think that that's far fetched at all for her to have fought them.
It's a winter night. Windows are closed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. Those are both good points.
They had so much time inside the house with her. I just feel like whatever went wrong or went according to plan occurred in the house, especially if they're going to such lengths to conceal the car from. They don't want anything caught on that camera, and they don't want somebody alive struggling with them also caught on that camera. So just in my opinion, I think whatever happened, they would have had plenty of time to overtake her and get her compliant inside the house. And now it's the piece of just getting her and or her body out into the car.
At some point, whether it's inside the house or outside the house, I think she fought like hell at some point. Unless she had an immediate heart attack and that incapacitated her and she passed away from that. But if she was still alive and having some interaction with a suspect or suspects, at some point she's going to fight. Okay. That's human nature. John, am I right or wrong?
I've got to agree with you on the only thing that would alter that is if that either she succumbed to a heart attack,
mm-hmm.
or there was an overwhelming assault at the time of contact and she was incapable. And what we're seeing here is blood falling. Not that she's bleeding, and I'm sorry if we got to be explicit here, as Chris pointed out. People who are dead don't bleed, but blood from ante-mortem injuries can still hit the pavement and look as, that blood will still flow from my body. Or
pool. Yeah, or pool on her clothes.
Exactly.
And then drip. So,
but if she's in a position where she realizes they're taking her for a final ride, yeah, the fight will be on.
I mean, I have an 86-year-old mom, and it's horrible to think anybody coming into anybody's elderly mother's home, what they would do, what they're capable of. We had some reporting that the inside of the house, there wasn't like a messy crime scene. Am I right, Chris?
Yep.
And so if we're thinking about this, is she fighting with her captors at her bedside, or did they do whatever they're doing to quiet her, keep her quiet, get her compliant, to get her out of there? If the fighting was going on outside and a struggle with her captors, wouldn't it also be going on inside the house? And wouldn't that also indicate whatever, blood, furniture knocked over, some indication of a potential messy crime scene before they even get her outside?
Well, it depends on the context. So we don't know at what point or if she ever realized that she had to fight for her life. Okay. And that's where the fight would take place, wherever she made that decision. And everybody makes that decision. Everybody makes that decision when you're in a position like that. And Gary can explain the whole sympathetic nervous system and how that operates, but everybody has the ability to do that. I'm not saying everybody will do it, but everybody has the ability to do that and to put up a fight with everything that they have left. So that could be what happened outside in the yard. Who knows?
Gary, you want to explain the central nervous system?
I mean, I think it's exactly what we were saying before. I mean, you have to understand that it's a primitive response that goes back to when our earliest ancestors, needed to flee from an enemy or a large animal or something. Your system needs to prepare to battle something that is larger than itself, potentially faster than itself, and so forth. So it sets you up to be able to run very high speed, or to have your cardiovascular system ready to handle the running or the fighting, and your heart is pumping and your blood is pumping, and and I think, what can happen in those states is that people can have a kind of almost superhuman, larger than themselves strength or ability for a moment. And as I said earlier, it's like the mom who could lift the truck off of her kid. When you guys were in police work, didn't you see crazy things like that where people took on superhuman ability when they were pumping with adrenaline like that?
John used to lift trucks off of people all the time.
It became a point where I considered going into business as a tow truck, because I could just pick the cars up. Actually,
but you know what I mean. People can get out of crazy situations.
Gary,
crazy drugs on board.
You've got three guys here who have had, and multiple times have had to fight physically for their lives.
Yeah,
aware that if they lost a fight, that it wasn't going to be, get up and shake hands. If you lost the fight, you were going to die.
Right. But you guys weren't in your 80s. 84-year-old woman who lived alone, buried her husband 30 years prior, has mobility issues. And yeah, I mean, a young cop is going to fight for his life. A woman who was surprised elderly woman, surprised in the middle of the night with no hearing aids. I don't know. I feel like any fighting that would have gone on happened inside the house and probably didn't occur outside.
Well, it could have happened in both places though, too.
So
we don't know what state, we don't know what state she was in, even if she was alive when she left the house.
Okay. Well, Bob, let's walk through this. We know she was in her pajamas and barefoot, according to Savannah, right? So they didn't gently wake her up and say, put your slippers on, we're leaving. She was surprised. She was taken out of the house from her bed. We know that. Would a struggle have occurred at her bed? Some man standing over her, would she have been overpowered, or would she have been, hypothetically, of course we don't know, would she have been starting to kick and scream, whatever, do that there? And then we don't really know we don't know what time that occurred. And we know we have that 2:28 a.m. data point that something occurred with her pacemaker. We don't know if she was in the house, if she was on her way out of the house at that point. And she was bleeding at the front door. I'm not saying there's no way she didn't fight, but I think any kind of fighting, any kind of verbal, any kind of back and forth she's having with the suspect or suspects occurred in the house. I don't think they wanted her noisy going out the door if they're going to such concealment with the car because of the video camera. So I just have a hard time seeing her struggling. I mean, it's kind of a great human aspect. We'd love to think that she was fighting till the bitter end with these guys and didn't give up, but she's frail. She can barely walk 50 yards. She bleeds easy. She's on blood thinner. She can't hear. The hearing aids aren't in. She's scared. This poor woman is scared out of her mind, which is horrible to think about.
But
I
Karen,
just-
if she thinks that she is about to die, okay? If she thinks she's about to die, she's going to do whatever it takes. She's not going to think about, I have mobility issues. I'm 84 years old. I'm going to give this everything that I can. We know that she bled at the front door, as you just said. So something happened there. Was she fighting as they were taking her out the front door and they gave her a rap in the beak? And then she continued fighting? And then they took her down in the yard out there where they're all looking at the sand and all that area. That's what I'm saying. And that is not, in my opinion, outside the realm of possibility at all.
So when you say fight, do you mean physically, or she's yelling at her suspect?
Both. She is given it all she has, Karen, because that is the human.
What about
that's the human nature? Unless she had the heart attack, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because that changes the dynamic,
right?
And then that to your, to both of your points, and I love watching this. By the way, this is.
But something happened at that front door.
Well, do we know that?
I would submit
because
to you.
The timing of that cardiac event is before the front door.
Right.
What if it happened in her bedroom, and by the time she got to the front door, that's when we're seeing the aspiration of blood and whatever got the blood.
That could very well be. But don't discount the fact that she didn't try and fight back just because she's elderly and she has mobility and she's a heart patient, because the brain takes over.
Yeah, but you got 39. You got 39 minutes in the house,
right? So what was going on in those 39 minutes?
Comes
up are
they talking? I mean, she's obviously, if he's coming in with a mask and 2 layers of gloves and all this concealment, he's not going to be engaging a gun, a backpack with a let's say a kill kit. Obviously, he's not going to be letting her stay alive that long and then able to put up a fight outside, to John's point, at the risk, or whoever said it, of neighbors. And even though it's, winter outside.
And then but that adds to the theory that the blood was staged, right?
No, I'm not saying.
I know you're not saying that, but I'm saying that would add to the theory that the blood was staged, because if to your point, Karen, if they go in with a kill kit and incapacitate her inside the house, okay, and then get her out however they got her out, then the blood would have to be staged.
Well,
why that doesn't make sense to me. Explain more.
I would say that let's just assume that there was an overwhelming attack within the residence, because my impression of this is that this was not for a ransom demand. This was to eliminate her. So perhaps in moving the incapacitated or dead body, as you get to the door and you're struggling with the door, the head flops, you begin to get 90-degree blood drops. It may not be, perhaps it's aspiration, perhaps she's unconscious. Because we don't know what sort of struggle there is. We all know that moving a limp body is extraordinarily problematic. But it could very well be that while making the transition through the 2 different doors, her head simply slips to the side, and that's where we get the blood flow. Because I don't think that she may have tried to fight in the house. She may have fought in the house. But whatever resistance she offered, I have to believe was swiftly overcome. Because the more I look at this, there was no way Nancy Guthrie was going to survive this event.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with John on that one, where I'm leaning more and more, getting closer and closer in my own mind that this is a murder for hire with finances as the motive. whoever or whatever's in that circle. I don't know where this tarp idea came from. I have no idea how that got into the environment in a conversation about
I first heard it from Maureen on this show.
From who?
From Maureen.
And what's her theory? What was her theory?
That it looked like a tarp.
There was
because of the flat nature.
Yeah, she's
The rectangular shape in the backpack.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Speculated it was a tarp.
Yeah, and I agreed. I agreed with Maureen on that. I thought it looked like a tarp to me too, until I saw some better photos, and it might have been Monk's video that showed there was something in there that was relatively flat, in my opinion, but then there was something on the outside or toward the outside of the backpack over that, and who knows what that is. I mean, I don't know, but it wasn't just that flat that I thought I'd saw initially. So
yeah, I think that was out. Okay, I understand. And Maureen's a smart cookie, so I have to respect that opinion. That's not a problem. But I think, though, for me, it doesn't. Just pushing back a little, not against the concept. It doesn't fit the bouncing ball. For me.
Which part?
They got in there. They rolled her up and brought her out over the shoulder, and that explained, the blood on the porch. I mean, that it just doesn't fit.
Do you think she came out on her own or was carried?
I don't. Well, I'm with John on this. What John just said. I think there's something going on. She wakes up. The suspect's standing over her. The lights come on, and it's game on. You're gonna play. By the way, we're taking you. Okay, you're coming with us. And I think that adrenaline, that fear, for an 84-year-old woman, I think she operates much more on fear than she does on fight. Because she is so vulnerable. She already knows the guy's in her house. He got into her house. He's masked up. He's completely, focused on you're coming with me. And there's probably the delay in this thing. Now it goes into, is there a cardiac event that takes place? And he panics. The suspect panics that now he realizes, holy crap, I now have to deal with this.
I don't know if that guy that we saw on the porch looks too panicked. He looks like a calm, cool as a cucumber psychopath.
Well,
but the thing is, especially if it was a for hire, then the idea is,
yeah, but Gary, and I know, okay, the human condition, even suspects get scared.
Afraid
okay? I can tell you how many I've sat across murderers who have looked at me and said, I almost crapped my pants when I pulled the trigger. Okay?
I think that's a certain type of offender.
Well, but we don't know who this, right? We don't know until you talk to the guy across the table and he says, no, man, no. Then we can go, okay, yeah, that's the guy. Okay. But right now we have porch guy picking up weeds on the front. This guy's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
No, but remember, Savannah believes that one of the notes that's real is the one where there was an apology made that her mother's heart was weak.
There you go.
Remember that? The whole, we didn't expect your mother's heart to be so weak. So, it's interesting because, again, just to sort of remind everybody, the two theories that seem to make sense to us. One possibility was an abduction for money that went haywire and she died accidentally. And the other possibility is that she is just killed. And the whole thing is made to look like an abduction attempt or something else. So some whiff of staging already in there. And then we went on with the question of, was there even more staging than that? Is it someone who knows her intimately and tries to make her look like an outsider and all of that? But the two basic buckets that our theories fall into are those two.
Well, now, and I'm going with a combination of the two.
Well, that's where I'm going. Is that it's interesting that it doesn't have to be that, like a kind of an either or like that. There's a way that Karen, you made the comment that looked like a kill kit. in the bag. Well, you don't bring a kill kit to an abduction.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if that's a kill kit, then it was intended that she was going to be killed. I mean, then the other question comes, if you're...
Well, I called it a kill kit early on. I called it a kill kit right after the video came out of Porch Guy.
Right. Well, this is the thing. If the idea was a homicide, which I think would be an elimination murder, according to my own theory, if it's a homicide, then the question is, was the goal to take her somewhere else to kill her? And, you know, to take her off somewhere to the desert or something, and do, as many people do who are going to execute a person, or do you do it in the house, you know, and you carry her out deceased, or did you intend to kill her and she died accidentally from a heart event or something else? In other words, that I definitely think something did not go as was intended. It's funny because I was watching. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask a question, Gary. What if the purpose was eventually to kill her, but to keep her alive long enough to get ATM numbers,
right?
To, and then, you know, her ticker goes south, and I'm sorry if that sounds cold, but, and suddenly they are, you know, they're left with, okay, well, we were going to get here eventually, but we got here faster than we thought, because that to me would make sense as to why you would remove her from the home and not do the overwhelming attack, is that you wanted to get information from her.
That gets closer to the whole wrench attack hypothesis, which we talked about it being very rare, you know, in the world, you know. But I think that to me, the financial aspect was designed to involve Bitcoin. That the idea was to get whoever the wealthy one was in the family who had the money, to put the money into Bitcoin, and then no one would know where that, you know, who was the recipient of that money. So it is a way of getting this family member to put money into an account, and then you do what you will with it. And, you know, who that is, I have no idea. But the idea is, I think it's about Bitcoin. And then that brings up Derek and Hawthorne, which is interesting too, who also references Bitcoin, right? So I just think for some reason that was the mechanism of interest, not getting finances in other more indirect ways. I mean, don't we all think that this was that's why I think FBI got involved. I think it was an electronic crime kind of thing, right?
No, because the FBI would have taken over by now.
Okay, but what I'm asking you, Chris,
they're not in the driver's seat. Everybody needs to slow down for a moment.
Let me think about that a minute. So do you think, Chris, that it is not necessarily true that the financial aspect of this was going to involve Bitcoin exclusively?
No, I'm not saying that Bitcoin is not in play. I agree with you 1,000%. But I'm saying that Pima County Sheriff's Department is still in charge. And right. That's like the NASA, that's like the Apollo 11 going to the moon.
Right.
Okay? And then somebody saying, well, no, that's Starlink. And that's Elon Musk. No, it's not. It's NASA. Okay. It's not Elon Musk. And so you have to differentiate that and keep that clarity right now. Okay.
Right.
Because until the sheriff says it's your case, take off, then it becomes the FBI's. At this point, we have no indication other than a support role the Federal Bureau of Investigation is playing. We have absolutely none. Okay.
That's a good point. It's a good point.
Okay. So that means it's a state case, and that means it's probably a homicide. That's what it means.
So why is FBI involved? I'm just curious.
Support.
For the audience's clarification.
Support.
Resources.
Evidence.
But
labs, phone.
But
okay, buts. Go ahead. I'm listening.
So look, the United States Attorney's Office for the District of Arizona was out at the house, and those are the people we saw in the photo. They're not there because they want to be looky-loos. They are there because at some point they are hoping to take this case before a federal grand jury, which means a federal prosecution. Okay?
Totally agree.
So, And you're absolutely right, Chris. This is still a
You said
state
but,
case.
I'm going if.
All right.
What happens to happen? From your, I'll raise your butt with an if.
Okay. Well, they can do a lot of things here. And I think this is in conjunction. Now, just hear me out. This is in conjunction with the state prosecutors, the Pima County prosecutors. The AUSA is not going to come in and bogart the case and say, we're going to take this federal, screw you, Pima County. Okay. That's not happening. I don't believe that. If they're doing anything, if the U.S. attorney is in fact going to make a grand jury presentation on this case at some point, it's going to be with the approval and the consultation of Pima County, guaranteed.
Thank you very much. Yeah, where's my check?
I said that from jump when I first pointed that out weeks ago. Okay.
Is he the best? Everybody in chat, we love Bob. Okay, but he just bought me a lobster dinner. But go ahead, in a roundabout way, he just bought me a lobster dinner. Go ahead. I want one of those fish. I want one of those fish out of your river. I want one of those fish out of your river.
It's not going to be
because that was the long way of taking the chat through. Me just saying they're not going to give it up unless they give it to him. They hand it to him. But go ahead.
Okay, I didn't hear you say that, by the way.
Get him a fish fillet, Bob. McDonald's fish fillet.
I mean, because how many times have we, honestly, how many times have we been in this? Okay. And I'll give you an example. I had the very first carjacking case, the federal carjacking case in California. Okay. The very first one. My phone rings. It's, you know who, with the suspenders. Okay. Hey.
Wait, is that a captain?
I'm just
I remember
Beefcake.
Hey,
he needed garanimals for adults.
Hey,
Chris's favorite lieutenant.
Yeah. Hey, McDonough.
Didn't he have the fancy cufflinks too?
Oh,
he
yeah.
did. And he wore saddle shoes.
Yeah, shiny.
It was a
saddle shoes.
It was a whole carnival. Anyway, hey, McDonough. Yeah, come into my office.
Sartorial excellence.
And I'm like, oh, it must be a POA thing.
And never wore a gun.
I'm in trouble.
Sounds like Melvin Belli.
I walk in.
A wannabe. Yeah.
Most people wouldn't know who Melvin Belli is, Gary. You better explain that one.
You remember? What a
famous defense attorney in San Francisco. Everybody knows
he was very big in the Zodiac case. Remember, he was getting letters from the Zodiac. That's so fun. But remember how campy he was, and then he was on Star Trek as a guest star. Anyway.
Fun fact, my dad got to go into his office and meet him in San Francisco, like in the late 1960s. And we have a picture in our of Melvin Belli's wall of shame in a San Francisco office. My dad was an attorney. And I guess, anyway, nobody mentions that name, Gary. Like, oh my God, I had a little tiny partial Melvin Belli.
He would have been fun at CrimeCon if he was still alive. Let me put it to that way. He would have eaten it up. He would have made. He was sort of like the Liberace of true crime, right? I mean, he would have shown up, in a limo with the bow tie and the tails and the whole thing. He was a character.
All right, we got off track.
Anyway, moving along.
Sorry, Bob.
Bottom line was, he goes, "Hey, call this guy from the FBI." For what? And he goes, "They want the carjacking case." Okay, do I have a choice? No. Oh, did you clear it with, I think, who was it? Charlie Bell at the time?
It was Greg Walden was in charge of North County at the time.
Yeah, did you clear it with, the DA? But yeah, they don't care. Send it over. Okay. So within a half hour, right, 30 minutes from San Diego, the FBI agent standing in my office or, next to my desk. And he says, "Hey man, this blah, 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 this it's going to look good. You guys are going to look good." And I said, "Hey, I don't care. Here you go. One off from me, have a great day." Now that I could see that happening, but not on something like this as embedded. And we talked about this the very first 2 weeks. We were worried that this whole kit and caboodle would turn more on that direction in the political side than what's happening on the streets, what's happening in the investigation.
Let me bring up one more point though on this
Yeah, go ahead.
issue, Chris. So don't forget that you've got two things going on here. You have the investigation, and then you have potentially a prosecution. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
The prosecutor may not be in Nano's court. Okay. I believe it's a female DA. I can't remember her name.
In Pima County?
In Pima County, yes.
By the way, she's never prosecuted a homicide yet.
Okay. So do you not think that she wouldn't defer prosecution in this case to the U.S. Attorney's Office?
No,
18 USC 1111, I believe, is the code.
No, I think that.
So I think that's my point. Okay. Because I think there's a good chance that they meaning the Pima County prosecutors and the U.S. attorneys, and they want the best prosecution possible under the circumstances. And they see the issues with Nanos, and that they have agreed, all of them have agreed, not Nanos, but all the prosecutors and the FBI and the, I was going to say Pima County detectives, but they wouldn't do that because of Nanos. But nevertheless, I think that they have gotten together and all agreed. That's why those were AUSAs out there on that walkway and touring that house.
And we have an email from the Pima County District Attorney's Office that says, we are working along with our counterpart at the AG's office to prep for prosecution when that time comes. So we know that
but they're not going federal. They're going to Attorney General.
Yeah, but that's state, the state Attorney General. I didn't know that they put that out.
Yeah, we got that. We reported that about a month and a half ago.
Karen got it.
Maybe I heard it and forgot about it, but so why would the federal prosecutors be touring the crime scene?
If something goes down on the other side, right, with what's his face?
Hawthorne guy?
Yeah.
Call Ella.
Yeah, that guy.
Okay.
And there's also the possibility if the state case augurs in,
they're going to tap it.
The feds will be able to step in and retrieve a prosecution because, and I won't beat the dead horse with the problems that the prosecution will have with the case. So it would seem to me a case of wearing a belt and suspenders simultaneously. On your bingo card, did you think that we would get suspenders in on two separate occasions during this discussion?
Well, just beat the dead horse with the suspenders, John, and you'll be
there.
fine.
You go.
And you know that the other challenge, though, we all know the U.S. attorney, they want to win.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
This thing could take years if they don't think they have all the dots, lined up. But the AG's office would take it on. And, so that's going to be a question of who's going to push those buttons, the family. And this is, I think it's really interesting within the last couple of weeks, Nano says, I'm not talking to the family anymore. And by the way, podcaster one, just this concept of family now, they have PIs. We had a whole broadcast about it recently, and we said before anybody knew, our sources had told us, they got a bunch of people. And lo and behold, they just announced that, Fox News.
That Savannah spent $500,000. If Savannah spent $500,000 on PIs, they have to have been working for a number of weeks, if not months.
Yeah.
This is not
I think it's been from the beginning. But go ahead.
Yeah, first week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that draws into question or is part of that. That's a lot of money to spend on PIs on any case. Yeah. So is some of that for some additional forensic testing of some type? I don't know. I don't even know if they can get their hands on it, but
yeah, I wonder if that also suggests that there has been some progress regarding and again, we're assuming that the primary thrust of the private investigators is to locate Nancy.
Yeah.
But I would wonder, if you've been working on it for a while, do they feel they're making some headway?
Well, I'm concerned that the sheriff has come out and made it public he's not talking to the family. That's a red flag.
Yeah, he sounds like
Right.
it almost sounds like the guy who tried to ask somebody to the senior prom and she said no. I mean, there's an element of hurt almost,
Right.
like, well, I'm not talking to them anymore.
Well,
Yeah, tell us what kind of repercussions are actually going on behind the scenes when a sheriff makes that kind of a statement in this crazy case.
it could be an investigative focus.
Meaning what?
They're getting close to things that people may not want to hear.
Okay.
And, they're going to look at maybe they're lining up the reporting party stories. I don't know. But when you're the sheriff and you have the politicians like Kelly, like everybody come in and say, we're here to help. What do you need? And then that sheriff pushes back and says, well, guess what? Here we are 100 and something days into this, and we're not talking to the family anymore.
Right. When he said at least one or two press conferences, it's so important that we keep our, relationship going with the family, right? All that, the script, remember that?
You need the family to go to court, and the law enforcement needs to be on the same team. You can't have two teams. Okay. You can't, right? I mean, you can't have, because the defense will say, isn't it true, Sheriff, you stopped talking to the family?
Yeah. How does that bode for the investigation and Pima County detectives?
Well, a jury looks at that and goes, why did he stop talking to the family?
Well, did Sheriff Daniel stop talking, or are the investigators doing their hard work and their best?
Great point.
And now they've got their boss out there saying, well, we're not talking to the family.
Or,
I still want to talk to the family. I'm working the case.
Or did the family stop talking to him?
Yeah, great point.
That's probably more like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And where did the polygraphs come from? Where'd that rumor come from?
That stemmed from when Sheriff Nano said that the family is clear. There was speculation and inference that, they must have taken a polygraph.
Every one of my sources has not said anything about a polygraph.
That happened. I'm saying that was the leap that was taken. That's all I'm saying.
But our sources have said, we don't know where that came from. Pima County Sheriff's Office rarely gives a polygraph, quote unquote.
And we were also told Pima County did not polygraph the family.
You heard it first here on the interview room.
Sources said.
Just like the PIs. So that means somebody must have hired them, or it's fantasy. We don't know.
We don't know.
And if that's the case, then again, just not getting too far off track. I want to stay back on, what we were talking about tonight, and we'll go to, some of the questions here. I think what we can establish here tonight is this appears to be a trajectory change. Now, does that mean there couldn't be a little cast off, maybe if she's moving or if she's flailing like Bob is suggesting, that you couldn't have it a little bit further ahead of the porch, or excuse me, the stair? I'll call it the porch, the stairs. Okay. The answer is yes, you could. But this right here, this shot right here with him taking his camera out, he is photographing something. And when you watch the video, because I did, he physically takes his camera out and he starts photoing or videotaping something, and they immediately change direction on that porch to that pathway. So they're seeing something. They're seeing something. And look at all four of them are headed in the same direction. And by the way, they go up to the patio. And that was going to be the next one we're going to do.
If they saw blood on the ground, would they be walking through it?
Well, no,
Would it be
it's already
cordoned
been
off?
it's already been recovered by this point because
Okay.
this was earlier. This right here, and it's the exact same location. They're looking down and they're walking.
Yeah. This is all after the media has already been on the front porch,
Right.
Videotaping and trampling all over the crime scene.
Right. So what we're not seeing here is them going to the end and going down the stairwell, to where the blood trail goes. Where we see this guy working something, and then of course we see them. And then when I went looking, I thought, okay, looks like a trajectory change. And I think this right here, the upper left-hand corner, is they're talking about it. What are the possibilities? What does it look like? The one on the right, to the far right, I think he's saying, don't make it obvious. We're going to go a sea change here. And the bottom left, and then the right, they're about ready to make their move. I mean, John, what was the rule, right? Whenever the media is, don't smile because they don't want you, right?
Oh yeah, you don't smile. You don't say the things that you might say if the media wasn't there. The other thing you don't do is you don't give your cards away. You don't want your work being videoed. So, basically we would stop and just look at the cameras. And,
Did that drive
if you stare at the cameras long enough, they go away.
Run the camera. If I would be wanting you to go up and talk to somebody, tell me what you're looking at. How's the investigation going? What are you finding? Anything I could get.
So if you saw a group of investigators like this, what's going through your mind as a journalist?
Obviously they're working, they're looking at stuff, and that doesn't mean they're going to come tell us anything. And they won't, especially if it's FBI. Good grief. No, you have to wait for the PIO, who will not return your call, definitely isn't going to be out on scene. And if they do respond, they're going to say, we have nothing. We're not responding, is going to be their response.
And what if Bob stepped out?
I'd go interview Bob. If I can get him to talk.
Hey, I'm a nice guy. I would give you a great
nice
interview,
guy.
Karen. Yeah.
You might not tell me a darn thing, but you may talk to me.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I probably wouldn't tell you much. That's for sure.
Get that.
All right, let's grab some. Gary, any thoughts? Because you've just been sitting up there being Dr. Brucato, thinking, processing. Does this change your thought process about the suspect's behavior potential?
Well, I just think it's interesting because myself included, I mean, I've talked about Porch Guy as being a little bit dim-witted, not particularly intelligent, not thinking well under pressure, things like that. And I'm not so sure. I mean, part of me wonders if there's a little bit of an underestimation of how sneaky and scheming that person might have been. Do you guys also wonder about that? I mean, he did get away with this, it looks like. Can't be that stupid.
Yeah.
Unless it's just dumb luck.
I don't think he's as stupid as he wants us to believe. And I think that's your point, right, Gary?
Right. That's what I'm starting to wonder if that ultimately this is or he was instructed by somebody more intelligent. I don't know. And the other thing I think we have to clarify is that when we are putting these ideas out there, we're only talking about a hypothesis, but we're not dismissing our prior ones. In other words, this is just a new avenue for thought. Mm-hmm. But so, for example, we're not saying it's impossible that the entire time whoever was in that house, she was already deceased. It's entirely possible that she was immediately eliminated or died, and then the offender went around doing something, made a phone call, talked to whoever was behind the curtain, looked for something, looked for financial stuff. All of that's entirely possible. It's also, as I think we have to keep reminding people, although unlikely, it's also entirely possible she was never even there. I mean, if you follow the trail, technically speaking, it is possible she was never there.
Yep.
And I mean, that's the whole thing. As far as I'm concerned, the trail, like if I think of myself as like a sniffing hound, which I suppose is easy to do, the trail technically goes cold when she gets, when she's heading home, at the time she would be heading home. From there on, everything is just based on a narrative that's been told. I mean, is that true?
Well, actually, it's from the point the Uber driver drops her off.
Oh, that's your place, because that we have
really is the point where we have a person who is outside the circle of the family or acquaintances who can attest to her being alive at that point.
Yeah. So you think so? As of the Uber dropping her off, from that minute on, I mean, of course, we give the benefit of the doubt. We assume that before people were cleared, they made they clarified. So I mean, I'm assuming. So the idea is that technically, we have no knowledge until, I guess, you're saying from the minute she gets out of that Uber.
Unless we want to,
right?
And actually, Gary, it depends on which camp you fall into. If you're to believe Savannah in her interview, her mother was taken from her bed in the middle of the night in her pajamas without slippers, barefoot.
Right.
If we're believing Savannah. If you don't believe Savannah, then your point could be, sure, everything's open and on the table, that 2:28 a.m. pacemaker, either disconnect or event happened, and Nancy potentially was not at her home when that happened. So
put the phone there. Right, exactly.
Put the phone there with her.
Right.
Well, her phone had to be with her up until, or I should say her Apple Watch. If we've got that as a data point. And then the garage, if we're to believe Sheriff Nanos on the data points, 9:48 p.m. and 9:50 are those two data points. So I guess you have to pick and choose what facts you're going to believe. What are the facts? I mean, right? I guess it's all speculation at this point.
Well, but the fact, but not the timeline that the sheriff put out.
If we're to believe his timeline.
If we stay with what the sheriff said the night of the very first briefing. Sheriff, how did she get home? The family took her. Okay. Did the family go in with her? Yes. Okay. Around what time, the next morning was she discovered? 11-ish, around 11-ish. Okay. The next morning, that goes, 11:56. Okay. Well, what happened to 56 minutes? That the sheriff was on the scene for the whole day. The whole day. I mean, either he's like a total doofus, or somebody lied to him and just put him as a national embarrassment on the team. Because 56 minutes is a long time to screw up. I mean, John, you would have tore my lips off. For
an hour, 56 minutes, an error of that size in a report. You and me would be having some serious counseling.
He would have beat you with the suspenders, Chris.
Well,
for making that kind of mistake.
Flashlight like he did the other suspect.
Oh, Nanos.
And and
Nanos, not John.
I mean, that's why folks love us here on the interview room, because we just say it the truth. It is what it is. I mean, and in police work, if I were to go to Bob as the under sheriff and Bob says, okay, give me details, give me exact details of what I'm looking at here. Hey, sheriff, it's 11 a.m.-ish about, probably maybe even a little earlier. Okay. He's going to run with that. And if I'm wrong, guess what? I'm going to stand in his office and he's going to dance. Okay. And it'll be quite the rodeo. Trust me, I've been in a couple of those rodeos in my time. So I appreciate, good leadership. And so if he was that far off, that's a huge problem. But now we've got this young lady with Broadcastify coming out, and I love the one we had one of our viewers last night that we met with, said, well, what do you think of this new, Broadcastify information? I said, well, here's one thing to keep in mind. The question was already asked. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, the response came, there are no Jane Does in the hospitals. The question was asked, and we don't have that time frame, how much earlier for the dispatch to call all of the hospitals. It could have been 45 minutes. And then they respond, negative, no Jane Does. So that was the answer to the question. That wasn't the question. That first deputy got on the air and said, can you check all the hospitals for Jane Does? And then 45 minutes later, what we heard on Broadcastify was the response, negative Jane Does. Okay. So now that is kind of like, weeding back that time frame back to, closer to that 11-ish hour. And, I'm very confident that it will be revealed around 11, maybe even 10:45, close to 11. And if that's the case, I can't change the facts. Go ahead, Bob. Gary.
Can I? Oh, Bob, did you want to say something?
No, please go ahead.
But he's doing something. I got to go take a quick look.
So, if the idea was that the family members who appeared on the scene thought that she had walked away and that it was necessary to call the hospitals and whatever, I think we can agree that it would be logical for them to look at her cell phone to see if there was an outgoing call to 911, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the phone was dusted for prints of either of the family members that would have had to have picked it up to look to see if there was an outgoing call?
Maybe, but it would, but maybe, but it's irrelevant. It's like if DNA is found in the house and it's a family member.
I don't touch my mother's phone ever.
You're an exception.
You think so?
I don't know.
I'm curious. I guess what I'm getting at is because, again, when people are cleared, they're cleared. No aspersions kept. But an investigator would not do that without having meticulously confirmed every aspect of a story. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't care if St. Francis of Assisi is on the scene. You have to make sure that St. Francis of Assisi is telling the truth. So I guess what I'm saying is that, I mean, don't you think they would have looked to see if there was anything that corroborated all those details in terms of what happened upon arrival?
One of the things that Nano said, and anybody can go back and listen to the press conference very carefully. He said when he was talking about the DNA, that we have some fluids or some biological evidence, we're sending it out to the lab. When the results came back, he said, we know that the blood on the porch belongs to Nancy Guthrie because it's guaranteed. He said, and other things, okay, are still out, okay, but we suspect it's going to come back. And, basically the inference was if Annie Tommaso, the pool man, the HVAC guy, or whoever, we would expect their DNA to be in that house. And it's not going to be a surprise. So basically what I thought he was saying was, let's, don't buy a card to the dance because it's going to be the same band. Don't worry about it. Now, if anything comes back, to your point, Gary, that phone goes into the same category. Because when you sit with somebody and they're the RP and you say, well, hey, how come your DNA is on your mom's phone? They're going to say, because she's my mom.
Right.
What did you expect? Even though it could be a lie, you have to unprove that's not being truthful. You have to rewind that for a jury and show for a fact that guy was being scandalous. Like the car. Have you seen the new Netflix series, The Crash?
I haven't, but I've heard about it.
Oh man, you got to watch it. Okay. They unraveled that case beautifully with, showing 5 seconds at 100 miles an hour going into a building. Okay. And meanwhile, everybody else, the defense was, no, it was an accident. Well, they unraveled it the same way. And this is what they have to do with this situation. There was one point in the series where it feels like the guy reached over and hit the car into neutral. And the theory was they were fighting for their lives. Okay. So in this situation, you got to go back to old school police work. And this case will be solved by the first 3 hours of what people said. And then you have to go and say, okay, let's look at the finances. Let's look at the phone history. Let's look at the patterns of life. Let's look at the relationship dynamics. Remember, we asked about the sisters. We'd like to know about the sister dynamics. What are those all about? Okay. Well, it's never a good sign when the investigators say, we're not talking to the family. That's never a good sign.
You mean a good sign for solving the case?
I don't know.
Or gathering data?
We don't have enough information to really honestly say if it's a plus or minus, but I can tell you that I've never said I'm not talking to the victim's family. This far in, John. I mean, am I off base?
No,
because I wish I was. Even Nancy at CrimeCon, she's like, you think the family? I said, no, I'm not saying the family did it. I'm just saying, you can't take them off the plate right now because there are too many gaps. And we did a whole show on 50 things we would have to fill in. Okay. And that's what this investigation has to do. They have to fill in those gaps, because if they don't, the defense will fill it in for them with their own theories. Some other dude, or, well, of course my guy was there because he cut his finger in the past while he was over at the house. In fact, when he went over to check for his mother, he cut his finger while he was there, and that's why his DNA is in the house. I mean, just bring in the clowns and the clown car and they'll line up. Look at Tyler Robinson right now. There's no way my guy's going to get a fair trial. Why is that, counselor? Because the DA's daughter was at Charlie Kirk's event. Your Honor, I'm moving to dismiss the entire district attorney's office.
It didn't happen.
No, I know, but you got to love the guy. You got to love him for effort. Look at Brian Koberger right now. Karen, what does Brian Koberger want his case thrown out on? He wants a new trial, doesn't he? Or his whole case thrown out. What's the next move? You remember you told me about the other day.
I think somebody else was telling us.
I think that what you guys are talking about is the brewing story that the Dateline leak that they can't get to the bottom of in terms of it, that the argument might be something like, I was pressured into a plea deal.
Is that what it is, Gary?
That's what I heard and reported on a podcast. That I mean, who knows if that's accurate, but the idea being that at least it could be exploited for him to say, oh, maybe I was pressured into a plea deal, because what chance would I have had after that leak to get a fair trial, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's a great defense concept right there.
Mm-hmm. Where's
the proof somebody was standing over her bed? My client wasn't standing over her bed. What are you talking about? Go ahead, Bob.
So just, we've said this a million times. You've said it a bazillion times, Chris. This is, people in the chat think that we're at odds here and that I'm upset, but this is how it's done. This is what happens when you're in the squad room and you are discussing a case and you're discussing theories and the evidence and everything about the case. This is how you do it. And sometimes yeah, we don't agree. Sometimes we flat out argue. I mean, I've gotten into some hellacious arguments, hashing out these cases, but then I go to lunch with my partners, an hour later. So this is just how it happens. So
Yeah.
for everybody's, that thinks we're all upset or I'm upset, that's not it at all, actually.
After this is over, he'll be saying, "Hey, I'm sending you a salmon."
Or a mackerel.
Or a
How about
mackerel.
a carp?
Yeah, a holy mackerel. It better be a holy
yeah.
mackerel. It better be a
Bottom
holy
feeder.
mackerel. Yeah. Okay, let's go through some of these comments, guys. We got 48 of them. Are you up for it? Let's see here.
Let's go.
Karen?
You want to read it?
Is that okay, sweetie?
Yeah, of course. This is from Max Rebo. With Derek Colella's hearing June 23rd, do we expect this could lead to further arrests if he names other parties, associates as a legal bargain?
Well, we've not taken him off the plate. Anybody here? They could be twisting him, even to Bob's point about the U.S. Attorney's Office in play here. They could use him against the other players. Remember, Gary's position is there's a chef and waiters, so he could be cleaning the dishes.
So he's not the chef or the waiters.
I don't think he's porch guy. He's not porch guy, and he's not the chef. Gary, am I wrong there?
No, I think there's definitely, my sense is that there's a nexus between a paying party or a Confederate, someone who had Confederates or a Confederate, and that their mechanisms of communication, whatever they are going to be sort of encrypted or secretive or so forth, and that everything was heavily electronic. I also would not be shocked if they were across multiple states. But I think that the person who carried this out and the person who schemed it up were local. You see what I'm saying? I wouldn't be shocked if there was some party elsewhere that was involved somehow, but in the electronic trail. But I think that porch guy was some putz that was local that was sort of asked to do this the same way. If I wanted my house painted, I wouldn't, get somebody on the other side of the country. It was just a task. So they got somebody local, I think. But whoever the person was that schemed it up, I think also knew her and was local.
Do you think somebody cross state lines said, let's put a plan together and kidnap 84-year-old woman out of her house because of Savannah Guthrie?
No, I think whoever dreamed that up was local and knew her, because there are a lot better victims in terms of somebody that's purely financially valuable. You wouldn't get somebody the whole idea is you have to have somebody who's likely to live. If you're abducting a person, they have to have not a scratch on them for them to survive and then get the money and then bring them back alive. Otherwise you get nothing. So that I think the idea is that if you were going to pick a victim for this, why would it be somebody far away who is not an optimal choice for a victim? And why her? She wasn't independently wealthy. It would be counting on some other person putting up the ransom. It's too much work to try to get that money out of. Yeah. So it just seems to me that story of the abduction is a cover story to give a kind of a panache of something else that went on, when really it's just about somebody who knew this woman wanting her out of the way. And this maybe involved somebody over state lines to pass the money along, but not in terms of executing it or dreaming it.
This is why I think even that the wrench theory, I mean, I think a lot of folks miss the main point of that whole theory, or that whole, criminals do things certain ways, and they do it very consistently, and they become very good at it. People that are doing wrench robberies, wrench kidnappings, and all the stuff, the number one element that you need is you need a victim with a Bitcoin account. Number one item that you need. If you're going to do a wrench kidnapping, then you need millions of Bitcoin in their account, the victim. Okay? You don't take the victim and say, give us Bitcoin to put into our account. You see, It's the opposite. It's the absolute opposite. You have to have, it's like saying, I'm going to go rob a bank. Okay. Why? Because they got money. Instead of walking in the bank and say, okay, everybody with me, come to my house. And while you're at my house, send me the money. That's what happened here. Okay. With the ransom note. They, instead of going a wrench attack would be going into the bank and stealing the money. Okay. A ransom attack would be going into the bank and saying, send me the money. This is a ransom attack, if it's even legit. Okay. It could be just part of the play here as part of this masterful, scripted, written poetry.
Misdirection.
It's like, hey, whatever. Okay. We're going to play this. Okay. And action. Who do we have in Porch Guy? Who do we know? Well, we got, Chuck E. Cheese over here. He dresses up on the weekends and smashes his tambourines together for the kids. Perfect. Okay. Get Chucky. You're in. Are you in? I'm in, Bob. Okay. Or Frank, Chuck, whatever. Okay. Who else do we have? Well, we're going to need somebody to drive the car and kind of hold her for a little while. Okay, who do we have? Well, we got Get Smart. Okay, Max, you're on. Agent 99 can't know anything about this. Roger that. And let's put them in the cone of silence. Remember where it would drop down with chaos? Okay, we don't want any chaos here. Okay, you're in. Now, guess what we need? We need Bitcoin. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, we know this guy in Hawthorne. He's pretty good at it. Oh, you mean Kalakala? Yeah, that guy. Okay, he's in. Okay. Now, you got a little crew here. Now the wizard's going to create, the umbrella, or excuse me, the curtain's going to come back and he's going to be moving all the levers. Right? Everybody's going to lever. Okay. And guess what they didn't anticipate? Okay. It didn't work out. Well, we got her. What are we going to do? Well, I hate to tell you guys, what do you mean, Chuck E. Cheese? What do you mean? She's not with us anymore, man. Holy crap. Okay. Plan B, 3 days later, let's send some letters and ask for Bitcoin. I don't know. I don't know. I hope that scenario is just
It's bad writing, as I always say to John. Like, if you tried to bring this story to a publisher, they'd say nobody would believe it. It's ridiculous. It doesn't have the ring of truth to it. It's not how people behave. The other thing is, Chris, I have to tell you, Savannah believes that letter about the heart. We're sorry, but that's also very strange. I have never heard of a person who abducts a person, a child, an adult, an elderly woman, and then writes an apology letter.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry, but it didn't go the way we were planning. I really tried to take good care of your mom, and she passed away. I'm so sorry. We didn't know about her heart. I am really, really sorry. Please accept my sincerest, I mean,
Well,
does that jive with
that letter would maybe come if they're trying to get a lighter sentence, but it wouldn't come long before they're arrested for the crime.
In other words, the idea is I'll distance myself from the rest of the group by saying it was unintended that she passed away. That's entirely possible, but I have to tell you, it is weird.
Okay,
I've never seen anything like that.
Third press conference, the head FBI guy at the press conference. Yes, you. What do you think about the ransom letters? The family believes they're real. We've heard of that, and we take all things seriously. Next question. He didn't say, we think they're real too. That was the classic, skip, dance, jump.
Total brush off.
And brush off. So just because Savannah believes they're real doesn't necessarily mean the law enforcement authorities think it's real. Okay. There again, you gotta know how the game is played sometime. You got to stand, you have to have stood at that podium and made that statement.
Well, and just because Savannah thinks that her mother was taken from her bed doesn't necessarily mean Nancy was taken from her bed.
That's a great point too, Bob.
But Nanos did say there were cameras inside the house. And if Google can grab what they did to get Porch Guy, there is the theory that there's, some kind of digital evidence potentially that shows what went on in the inside of the home. It's just a theory, and that potentially Savannah saw her mother taken out.
There's no doubt.
It's a theory. It's there's no,
and that could be. Yeah, I don't disagree at all, Karen. I think that they have a hell of a lot more video than.
Absolutely.
I agree.
I think they've got a plethora of video.
Yeah, I concur.
A plethora of guns.
Yeah. El Guapo.
Chris loves that.
You have
movie.
A plethora of guns. Thank you, man.
Decline. Thank you, Decline.
Thank you so much.
Do you want me to take this one?
Chris, do you agree that it's difficult to believe that an offender who would do something like this would send such a note? I mean, have you ever seen anything like that?
No.
Even if it was done to throw, to suggest, it was an accident. I've never seen it.
And I don't think that offender's dead. The guy on the porch.
Oh, I don't think that.
I know there's some theory out this my opinion. My opinion is, why are you going to whack him?
Yeah, I don't think he's dead.
Why create, more problems on top of problems? That's not how it works.
And sending a transmission is risky too. Sending a message, anything you send is very risky.
Well, just think about it.
Yeah, Karen nailed it. Karen nailed it. This is what somebody says to the person just before sentencing. Yeah, I'm really sorry. I've never seen this sort of, gee, Mrs. Lincoln, I'm sorry I ruined the theater for you sort of message. It just doesn't. I've never seen that.
And plus, if the guy's dead, let's play this through, okay? Do you realize how much risk everybody in the circle just took by killing somebody in their own circle?
Yeah, now they've got two.
Well, unless they were dressed up with their mask and their gloves and everything on and whacked him that way, okay? Because
$1 million plus on the table. There's
man,
$1 million plus reward.
If the person was capable of killing somebody, they wouldn't have had to hire somebody to do it in the first place.
Well, that's a great point in of itself. Yeah, but look at all the cross contamination that could potentially happen if they were working. If they ever find that guy's bones, okay, and they start reverse engineering that backwards, okay. I mean, it's like law enforcement's going, really? If he's dead, this is great. Okay, why is that? Because now we get another bite at the apple. We not only have him on the porch, we get to find out who touched him and did this. We got all kinds of additional evidence, and that just makes the case stronger. So there is no way they're going to say, okay, dude, you screwed up. You're out of here. You're done. Okay. No.
Especially since they knew the cameras were operational.
It's a no-brainer.
But why do you guys think, because this is taking us purely into the realm of speculation, but we've never, as far as I know, we've never really talked about it, but where the heck did those people come from that they looked at? Remember the people that they went and did searches of the home and the whole thing? Where the heck did they come from in the scheme of things?
Well, they probably traveled the trajectory around the property and did a geofencing.
Right.
And there are some abandoned houses back there. I'm sure the theory was, could the suspect have been surveilling? And because this person needed a lot of time to do this. If those two photos are different and it looks like they are, the very first photo that they have with the guy standing there with the dark behind him, that looks like it could have been before a full moon. Because remember I told you, I talked, the astronomer, who said, no, that moon lined right up on the night she was kidnapped at 2 a.m. That guy is on that porch at 2:02. Okay. And I would put that guy on the stand. Okay. And that's the guy with the weeds. Okay. But the other one is a total different night. It's
without the backpack on or the gun.
Yeah, exactly. Hon,
Yeah,
right?
that photo.
It's like, that's a total different night. If that's the case, that means they're taking risk to come into that neighborhood and, do their surveillance or whatever they're going to do, or they're playing games for the investigation down the road where they're getting on video so that the investigators go back and find it. And they go, okay, hey, this guy's been here a couple different times. It can't be A, B, C, or D. It's got to be this, E, F, and G here. Okay. So it could all be part of this master script. And that's why finding the car is critical. And it was great to hear Nancy talk about it, because I said it 2 months ago.
Nancy Grace at CrimeCon, when she was talking about the Guthrie case, she also talked about the car.
And you find the car has been what I've been saying. You find the car, you'll find the suspects, or you'll find the body, because it's much harder to hide a car than it is a body. And once you get that, and what are they doing? What's the first thing they do? They went back and they said, hey, if anybody has any video going back to these dates and this time, this certain frame, well, that's because they got a geofence on intel from the CAS team. It's all flowing inbound. And so they're looking for those vehicles. And by the way, who would have known how to get in and out of that neighborhood without some knowledge of that neighborhood? You just don't study the neighborhood for 30 days and know where all the cameras are and aren't. I mean, that's not sophistication. That's knowledge. That's general knowledge of, I've been here 1,000 times. Oh, look, there's a new camera there. Oh, look, Mrs. Jones. Maybe I don't know, maybe somebody familiar with the HOA. I don't know. I have no idea. I can tell you this, the suspect somehow knew what the inbound and outbound was, and they probably did it multiple times. And that's why they're very comfortable, because they could have been driving in there, 30, 40 times, and everybody goes, hey, how are you? It's good to see you, man. Great.
Why when the video surfaced from 2:36 a.m., 2.5 miles away from Nancy's house, and the news media got it about, 3-4 weeks later, maybe a month later, why do you think the investigators and the FBI were so quick to dismiss it publicly? You think it's in play?
Which part, honey?
Okay, you guys remember it looked like a white car speeding by 2:36 in the morning, 2.5 miles away from Nancy Guthrie's house. Remember that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we really some of us thought, oh, maybe they'll be releasing publicly the description of the car, and maybe they're looking for the car that they're going to tell us. That never happened. And then I think the media that went and talked to Pima County and the FBI about it, it was dismissed out of hand. Do you guys remember that?
Yep.
What is that? Is that a cover? Is that we're not talking about it because we're working it? It's a hot lead?
Could be a head fake. Yeah.
Yep.
Nothing to see here. Move along, citizen.
That's exactly what we were told.
Move along. Nothing to see here.
But that was about 2 or 3 months ago. So do you think they've developed any more leads on that car?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Chris is smiling.
I just go with my buds, my partners here.
Okay.
I'll tell you what. But okay, so let's take some more questions.
Yeah, we're not doing a good job of chipping away at these questions. Rosie says, any of you guys see Porch Guy could potentially be wearing a watch? Love you guys. Keep this going for Nancy. Rosie from Glasgow. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie.
Thank you, Rosie.
John?
I was just going to say, I haven't seen, he could potentially be wearing a watch, but I can't make enough out of the imagery. And Glasgow is a really cool town.
Wow. I wish I could go to Glasgow one day.
Thank you.
Oops, sorry.
857 Tucson. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate you guys.
Bonkers says Nancy wouldn't let the water hose be left out on the driveway.
Good observation.
Yeah. Thank you
And
so
perhaps
much.
the water was turned on at night to wash down tire tracks. It would have evaporated by morning.
Oh.
Missing Arizona says, Chris, can you explain how the scanner video from last week proves the family were there before 11:56 a.m.? I think I missed something.
So the scanner video doesn't actually show or prove that they were there at 11. The sheriff proves that they were there at 11. Okay. It was the sheriff who said the family was there around 11. Okay. And he said it in a press conference. So he's the one that put that timeline out there. And the Broadcastify information just, moves us back closer towards that time, because we're only hearing the answers on Broadcastify. We're not hearing when they actually got there and how long it took for them to put this information out. So that's a great question, but it was Sheriff Nanos who said 11 a.m. I did a whole show on it where I played him actually saying it. So you can go through our playlist and you'll hear him say it. This show should go on tour. I agree with you. I'd love to have a tour with these guys around the country.
That'd be so fun.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Okay, Zoe says, DAA Juice went to Nancy Guthrie at 2 a.m. last night. As it was a full moon, he said it was much lighter than a normal light. He could see down the street.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thornbridge says, in my opinion, porch guys' layers of gloves were too thick to get fingers behind the camera to release, therefore for leverage.
Oh, to pull it off, and then that begs the question, could he even pull the trigger on a gun? And so is that gun just there for a prop? Yeah,
could he even get that big, sausage finger into, because if we're assuming that's a small auto pistol, he may not have even got it in there. So maybe it's just a prop, as you say, Chris.
Yeah. And which Gary pegged on that, months and months ago, where he was saying it's like Ralph Cramden, dressed up with the helmet and, one of these days, Alice.
Somebody says, looks like someone spun their tires or peeled out. They're talking about the tracks that we were looking at earlier on Nancy Guthrie's driveway, leading up to the indentation. Yeah.
Yeah, they indented. Let's take a look for everybody that just got here.
Somebody asked in the audience if it's possible that what we're seeing was a taser, but I think it's clearly you guys can even identify what kind of firearm it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a revolver?
No, it's a semi-auto.
It looks like it's semi-auto. The small one, maybe 380 or something, maybe a small 9.
Mm-hmm. Definitely not a taser.
Gary, would propping doors be part of cult beliefs?
Not that I've ever heard of. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of people who are involved in those kinds of things in my work, and I've never heard of anything like that. No.
Okay. Walking with colors, switch Micah. Maybe a car drove by and scared them off the pathway. That's a good point. Maybe. This is insane. We agree with you. We agree with you. Thank you, Selma. Can Chris show us a bird's eye view of the house, of the area? I need the address. I'll try to pull it up on Google Earth. But I got to look it up while we're doing that.
Okay, let's take some more of these. Micah says, going to right, is the neighbor's home a place they could have parked? It looks like a path between the homes. Bob, what do you think?
You know, looking, if you look at the overview that somebody just asked for, I was just looking at it on my camera, but I can't send it to you for some reason. To me, the road is not that far. It's not as far as I thought it was when we were discussing this earlier. And so I think there's a good chance that if our theory has any credibility, I think they're not on the driveway. And John made this point earlier. They probably intentionally stayed off the driveway so as not to leave any tracks or anything. And it could be that they just parked down on the street and were trying to get her down outside of the circular driveway, trying to get her down to the street and to the car. And as you can see, there's a lot of shrubs and trees or whatever those are there to seclude them at least part of the way. So, you know, it's just a theory, and but I think it's just as plausible as any of the other theories out there.
I think parking in a neighbor's driveway would be highly risky to come up on their camera or cameras.
Wouldn't? No, I'm not saying in the neighbor's driveway. I'm just saying down toward.
That's what the question was.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm sorry.
She was saying, no, that's fine. She was saying that could the suspect have parked the car like next door at the neighbor's, driveway? And the neighbor's is the neighbor's home a place they could have parked? Looks like a path between the homes.
But it doesn't look like there's a place to park. You would literally have to go past the residence. The only possible way is if you were to go around to the rear of the house. It looks like it's a cul-de-sac to the rear. But again, we're looking at how many moving parts. If we're going to walk her through the desert or carry her through the desert, that looks like it. Well, no, that isn't even really a cul-de-sac. Or if it is, again, it's going to put you right into sight of two residences. So,
yeah, other homes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the suspect had to know this neighborhood.
Yeah.
And was there some avoidance of getting on like places where there were obvious cameras?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that you had to have it. This is like another Koberger thing. We should approach this thing like we did with Brian, you know, in terms of the familiarity with a geo program or a geo profile, right? In terms of that, when you look at this, I mean, there's you've got to know how to get into this place, and you've got to be familiar with what routes, you know, you would take to get out of it. I mean, I'm going to pull out a little bit deeper here.
You know, I think it was Brian Enton that has said several times on his program that that he has to pay particular attention coming in and out of that neighborhood, even though he's been in and, you know, made the drive from Tucson a million times by now. He's got to really pay attention, or even look at his GPS to get in and out, because it's such a convoluted road system there.
Well, let me ask you, Bob, do you think it's possible that the reason they went and looked at these different people was simply that it was very late at night, there was very little traffic on the road, and they basically identified a couple of people who there was electronic evidence had been on the road at that late hour or something, just to clear them?
Yeah, that could be. And are you talking about the ones? Yeah. I think that's, you know, quite possible. Sure.
Because I mean, is that a normal thing you would do in a situation like? I mean, you know, it could be a road that wasn't frequented very much, and a couple of people lit up as having passed through, perhaps you know, a delivery person or a person out for a late night or something, and maybe they have to clear everyone. Is that possible?
Well, it could be. Yeah. Well, you know, that first guy that they detained down by the border, I mean, that's what he was doing. He had made a delivery there, right?
Right. I mean,
So
Carlos, you're talking about Carlos.
yeah, Carlos.
who was stopped in Rio Rico.
Rio Rico.
And then had his home searched.
Right. See, I think Chris is right. I think the vehicles may be the unraveling of this whole case, because you had to use one to transport her. And, you know, it doesn't seem like there were, I mean, didn't the sheriff make a comment about there being like thousands of vehicles that had to be
He
gone?
said hundreds of thousands of vehicles, that was his quote, were out in that kind of late hour, early morning hour. He acted like they had to go through like hundreds of hours of video trying to find the right vehicle.
Does anybody think that's accurate? I mean, doesn't it make more sense?
It doesn't even sound like common sense. No.
Yeah, I took the way he responded to that as kind of a mocking, you know, attitude. And I think maybe he was just trying to get him away from that, you know, as Chris would say, nothing to see here, move on. So, but I definitely think they're and have been poring over whatever video they have of vehicles coming in and out of that neighborhood.
Right.
They have to be.
I mean, and they probably can, you know, pin it down to a couple of vehicles, even the type of vehicle, the color, the you know what I'm saying? I have no doubt that they. And I mean, how good are those cameras? I mean, could you zoom in, for example, and see a license plate? I mean, how good are they? Is it just
if there is a plate, they could be driving without a plate, especially late at night.
But I mean, do you guys have experience with that? And then is the idea that you identify a vehicle and then you like rip it to pieces to look at the telemetrics? Is that the idea?
You know, there's a big situation going on right now with cameras that folks are vandalizing them.
Oh.
Yeah, and so they're really great tools, but that while you guys are talking real fast, I'll just show you something. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a big uprising against these license plate readers. I think the mayor of Chicago recently ordered all of those removed in Chicago. And I believe it was the license plate readers. It may, or flock cameras. I guess they're one and the same, but I think they had license plate readers in Chicago. And I think I have the city right. And the mayor ordered those removed. And so they did, quietly, but now it's just coming out. I think this happened several weeks ago.
You know, it's a catch-22. What if you're the victim of a crime and those flock cameras can help solve the crime and catch the psychopath, you know, serial killer, whatever. You know what I mean? There is some good that they do. And we already live in a, you know, technology state. Everybody has a camera on them. You know, we live in a state now where if you go out in the public, you have to assume you're being recorded. If it's not from somebody next to you holding their cell phone camera, then it's cameras placed, you know, to catch speeders in your town, or, you know, to your point, Bob, the flock camera system. I mean, there's an upside and a downside. And it's not all a downside, especially when you're trying to put a case together and put bad people away in jail and prison so they don't harm and hurt the public.
Well, you know, you really don't have an expectation of privacy out on a public street. When you're driving down the street, there's no expectation of privacy. Now, if somebody comes in and, you know, breaks your window and shoves a camera in there, yeah, you might have some expectation in your vehicle, but not your vehicle driving down the road or anything that you can capture looking into the vehicle. There's no expectation there.
Right.
So this is the Phoenix area, Tucson area, right here. Every one of these dots is a LPR, license plate reader. I'll pull it out a little bit more. So you can see the city of Phoenix right here for people to see it, read it. But all through the neighborhoods here at Tucson. I'm not going to pull them up to show exactly where they're at, but every one of those blue dots is a camera. So I think that's going to be the key. And there's another system. I'm not going to pull that system up, but there's another system that can take every one of those cameras, and you can digest the information into it. And all you have to do is type in, let's say you're looking for a white Range Rover or a white Kia. You type, or a truck. You type white Kia, and in about 15 seconds, that AI will put up every single white Kia that ever crossed one of those cameras.
That's a question Ann Burgess has asked, why AI is not being used to
AI is being used.
Yeah, to expediently look at the cars in this case.
Well, it is being used. There's a couple of companies that do it. They're mostly, stuff that we don't talk about. And there's a real-time crime center up there, RTCC.
But you know it for a fact, Chris, or you're speculating that they probably use?
Gary, why would I speculate 42 years in this business?
No, I don't mean that. I mean, has it been reported that it's being used? Or
they're not going to report it that it's being used. That's what I'm telling you. Yeah, there are two companies. One of the biggest one is BriefCam. They're an Israeli company.
Yeah, so it's standard. In other words, it's like there's no doubt in your mind.
No, trust me. Yeah. There's a real-time crime, and they are flushing all this through the RTCC. Mm-hmm. And Phoenix has a fusion center. Just type in fusion centers in the country, and then you'll figure it out in about 32 seconds.
Let's take some more questions.
Yep. And that's going to be the key.
Okay, 5 Divine Julie says, did the pacemaker tech call when it disconnected?
We don't know that. I don't know that. That's a great question.
Knitting Kitten says, there's a picture of the front door after the Nest Cam was removed online, and there's a grass stain behind where the camera used to be. It may prove the pry theory.
Yeah, I saw that photo. It's on the bracket. It's on the back side of the bracket.
Okay. Sorry. It's called ACTIC, Gary.
Thank you, Oklahoma Mima. There we go. Oklahoma Mima.
Oh, hey. Hi. Thank you.
Thank you for becoming a member.
Woohoo. There they are.
Is that them?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
We see them.
Hey guys.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sishay, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I'm thinking this is simpler than we think. Perps know neighborhood and have spent copious amounts of time there.
Yep.
Your thoughts, Chris?
I'm getting it here. Sorry, I'm trying to stay ahead of you, hon.
Okay. Paisley says, did Nancy have nitro bedside, or is nitro useful with a pacemaker? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
I don't either.
No.
Real fast, I can show this because it's public, but I just want to show the audience real fast, okay? This is what I'm talking about. You see all these screens right here in front of this analyst? There's a whole bunch of analysts sitting in front of every one of these screens. This is public, by the way, so I'm not sharing any secrets. But every one of these screens is a traffic camera. See it right in front of them? Okay. And you can report all kinds of crazy stuff if you feel that that's what you need to do. But then there's software. Okay, what they're doing is they're monitoring the entire situation. It's called Situational Awareness for a Real-Time Crime Center, RTCC. They can deploy drones. They can deploy all kinds of information quickly, accurately, instantaneously for active shooters, terrorism events, that kind of things. That's why these were created, to prevent Manhattan from getting blown up. Okay. And yours is down at One Police Plaza downtown. It's on the second floor. Okay. And they have two of them. They have a J-Rock and our RTCC at NYPD. And that's how they got the guy dropping the van off that day in the Times Square. They saw it happening. And that's what those things are.
Let's go to some more questions.
Yep, that's where I'm headed.
3+ hours. So thank you, everybody, for hanging in there with us. Lisa Klein says, what is the timestamp on the porch guy video? Notice when the video is up, there's no blood on the front porch. So she hasn't come out yet at that time.
I don't think we have a timestamp other than,
that night.
Yeah, I don't think they've given us the exact timestamp, but the the astronomer said it's around 0200 based on the longitude, latitude of the moon based off the shadow, which I thought was pretty creative.
Mark the Shark, can I send you drone footage if you like?
Sure. Mark, I heard you got good stuff. Send it to the info.theinterviewroom.
The email address is in the description box below.
Yes. Thank you so much.
New Jersey Elaine, great to have met you at CrimeCon. You're awesome.
Yeah.
So she says, I don't believe Nancy left the home alive. It was very nice meeting you this weekend. Yes, it was great.
Thank you so much. You're kind.
Selma says, is porch guy talking to anyone when he turns?
That was,
we don't know. Yeah.
Okay, Monica says, great episode. What if they took her to the property to the right on El East Camino El Gondo?
That seems to be a theme running through here, doesn't
but
it?
I think the panel has said it's really too much of a high risk, adding risk on top of risk. Am I wrong?
Yeah, but we'll see.
Yeah, that would be very risky, but.
Well, we got to presume that the cops and the FBI would have made contact with the residents and searched the property.
Yeah, good point.
Good point. Chris, you want to take that one?
If they took her to the left, it might explain why one of the irrigation system was broken on that side. As we saw in JLR's earlier coverage, it was spraying on timer. There may have been more blood than we've seen. Interesting point. Interesting point.
Junior says, a pacemaker paces the heart rate without a shock. A pacemaker defibrillator will shock the heart. Bob, the shock is right to the heart. You can feel it if you're touching them while sweating.
All right, Junior. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a world where they come back from, where they come from the back? ATVs. Probably.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It'd be too loud at would it be too loud at 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30? That would probably raise a lot of dogs.
Well, yeah, and wouldn't you presume that there'd be tracks left? ATVs leave, I've had ATVs around here where I live, they leave tracks.
Yeah. You'd have to transport her too. $2 for a shovel. I'll give you $1.50. 20% cheaper.
Mittens Goldie says, maybe this is where she was walked with no shoes. There may be images they haven't released.
Yeah, walked with no shoes across that would be very brutal for an 84-year-old woman who's bleeding on blood thinners.
That sounds horrendous. Johnny Knoxville says,
is that the Johnny Knoxville?
Please open chat to people who've been members or subs for less than 3 weeks.
Love Johnny Knoxville. Please, yeah. Okay. I'll do that.
Okay. Thornbridge, January 11th photo of porch guy was on that spot too. Okay. Thank you. If she knew them, how would she act?
Surprised.
Yeah. Michelle says, thoughts on the possibility of it being a message sent to Savannah after survivors of e-files, and they were inside sending videos to Savannah, and that's how she knows what her mom left the house wearing.
I have to say, I haven't commented on it to date, but I personally think the entire Epstein files connection is a huge red herring in this situation. I cannot see it. I understand people are interested in that kind of conspiratorial idea, but there is not a jot of evidence to point in that direction. Does anybody else think that this has to do with Savannah's reporting on the Epstein files? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see it. Bob, do you?
Nope.
It's interesting, but
incomprehensible. I don't. It's almost as if people. I would ask them, is this not bad enough already that this woman was abducted from her home and potentially killed, that we need to add another layer to it, that we have to have a conspiracy that, I'm sorry, I just don't see it.
So the idea is, let's not even give it any oxygen. We'll move on.
Okay. Could they have tried to drug her with a needle, and since she was taking blood thinners, bleed her out a bit? That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything is possible. You never say never. If she knew them, she could have walked out. Truth. We agree.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Whoops, sorry.
Michelle says, could Nancy be buried under that tree with the rocks around it?
Probably not.
Looked pretty small.
The dogs would have picked up the scent too, right?
Yeah.
And it's a lot of work to dig.
And they would have known, they would have seen the disturbance.
Exactly.
Lisa says, fight, flight, and freeze. We truly don't know how she responded, but let's agree it's so sad that anyone would do anything to this 84-year-old woman. Justice for Nancy. We totally agree. And it's horrible to even go through these scenarios thinking what this poor woman went through.
It sounds like she was the center stage at CrimeCon, by the way. That it's clear that the true crime community is abuzz about this particular case right now. When I went, it was Koberger, but it just sounds like this is and to be honest, I like that the person getting a buzz is a victim and not a perpetrator, because when I went and Koberger was all the rage, I kept thinking, why is the emphasis not on the victims in terms of what everybody was talking about in the halls there? But the victim focus is a good thing.
Yeah, a lot of people love her, no doubt about it. There's this.
Yeah, they identify with it. Everyone I talked to about it said, I have a mother who's, X number of years old. If this happened to me, I'd be devastated. I mean, I understand.
And if this thing ever did go cold, I mean, the Cold Case Foundation would help Savannah for free. You don't have to pay us $500,000. Okay, we would do it for free. That's how we operate as an organization. Let's see here.
Julie says, if they brought her out of the house alive, wouldn't they have had her mouth and hands duct taped or something? They wouldn't have brought her out completely unrestrained.
Okay. It's possible.
Certainly
John?
possible.
Yeah.
Monica says, what if the family wanted her to move out due to age? She changed her mind about selling her home. Attempts were made to scare her into leaving. First through camera incident and later through a staged robbery that went wrong.
John, Bob, anybody?
Well, it's possible, but I don't put a lot of credibility in that, just because that's really far-fetched, and there's no evidence that anything like that occurred that we know of anyway. So I think that's highly unlikely.
Yeah, the hazard with the idea that we're going to drive Mama to an early grave because we want to move her someplace else. That kind of is self-defeating. If you know she's frail, she's got heart problems, why would you stage a fake robbery? And to me, it just fails Occam's razor. Too many moving parts.
Yeah. If Derek C is involved, when they make it federal, yes. That's one of the options that Bobby was talking about earlier that would shift it pretty quickly. Great question. Where do we go?
If Nancy was never there back at the house, how do we explain the pacemaker disconnecting with a phone watch? The phone watch would have to be near her wherever she was. I mean, that's obvious, right?
Correct. Yep. Here's the point. All we've heard is that phone disconnected. We don't know where the location of that was.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Great point.
Lisa, why haven't they come out to tell if Nancy's heart is stopped or not? Pacemaker goes to a team watching computers. When it happens, they call the patient first. If no answer, they call emergency contact. Who was called when the pacemaker spiked? That's a really great question.
And that's
which of the kids?
Yeah.
And it's only behind John, door number 1, 2, or 3. There's only 3 options.
That's a solid point, Lisa. Thank you.
Maybe 4. All right, maybe 3.5.
And that's what that cardiologist, the gal who works in the cardiology was saying. We're reading this wrong. And thank you so much. Good point.
Jen B says, why isn't the family still talking about this anymore? That's a great question. Savannah has quite a platform, doesn't she? Yeah. Concepts in health. How do plants not show blood stains? Did porch guy drop the flowers last?
I think some of that was dropped or maybe kicked over during the various potential searches. We don't know, but there is definitely plants on top of the blood, so that is an anomaly as well. Anybody have any other thoughts on that?
Other than possibly if there was a breeze, that if the vegetable debris was small enough that a breeze could have moved it. But yeah, other than that, it is anomalous.
Okay. Roy asked, great question. Why would the perp leave the phone and watch behind for all the data to be gathered? Why not? If you have the ability to move the phone, whoops.
Wrong one.
Well, I don't know where it went. Oh, I accidentally dropped it off. Oh, no, here it is. It's kind of like the guy that walks into the liquor store and says, I like a 12-pack of beer. And the clerk says, do you have your driver's license? He says, yes. And he hands it to him. And then he pulls a gun, says, this is a robbery. And he takes off. And the clerk, when the cops show up, says, here's your guy. Sometimes it happens. Great question, though. Great question. All right, let's go back up to this one. I already answered that one. Sorry about that. My bad.
Louise says, love being part of this family. Great scenarios, great minds, and always thought-provoking. Thank you, Louise. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Crazy Beach.
Crazy Beach.
I've been saying all along, if it was an abduction, why would they not abduct the mother? Why would they abduct the mother who's sick? Wouldn't they abduct another family member like A, who's local, since it's based on a local person, possibly?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think the authorities think it's somebody in the circle too. I'm not saying the RPs. I'm saying in the community. Real R notes is relative, is really for ransom, or real note for another part of cover up.
So wait. They're saying the real ransom note is relative.
Mm-hmm.
It's really for the ransom or a real note for another part of the cover up. Okay.
Yep. It's both sides of the sword.
Okay. Junior says, until I see evidence she was taken from her bed, I still haven't left the family's house. Please release some new videos so I can move on. My brain hurts. I'm sure the authorities want to do that. Alaska Girl says, I feel like the perp has the gun like that to make us think he's right-handed. All show.
Yep.
Thank you.
What about the neighbor's dog barking both January 11th, February 1st? Has the dog owner been cleared? Some dogs bark when the owner is walking away. Also, about those tracks left, they led to the road from sidewalk area. You know, I'm sure they've all been interviewed, and we'll probably hear about that, you know, after they make an arrest and in trial. They're probably holding it back.
Thank you, Sikorsky, and thank you, DB Bentley, PI.
Mike, could perps be a father and son duo? It's the only reason they're not ratting each other out for their ransom. Great point. Yeah, that's like $1.2 million sitting there.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'd have ratted out my old man for $1.2 million.
Yeah, the reward is like $1.2 million, man. Did Nancy?
We already did that
we
one.
did that one. Yep. Sorry about that, hon.
Mike says, did we as the public ever get a description as to what Nancy may have been wearing at the time of her disappearance? Not by Pima County Sheriff's Department. All we have is, if we are to believe Savannah and Savannah's description, that her mom was in her pajamas and was made to leave barefoot without her slippers.
Also wonder why I haven't heard from Sergeant Cross lately. He's been silent. Actually, I talked to him today. All is well. And he's pressing forward. He's a great guy. Hard worker, that guy. Mark the Shark has excellent drone footage. Yes, he's going to send it to us. Thank you. How well was cistern tank search only poking it? Great question. I don't know if they hit it with radar above ground penetrating. Do we know?
I would think so. I think the poking that we all saw on camera was not the extent of the search.
I would agree with that.
Is it possible that Perp took Nancy and she did not survive, was taken out of Tucson by plane, helicopter, never to be found? Well,
we don't know.
That's a lot of work, man. That is definitely a lot of work.
There's involved more conspirators too. Right. Now you're bringing pilots in, and you know, if you got to go to an airport, more witnesses. I mean, yes, is it possible? I just don't see it as likely. And in fact, you're surrounded by desert. Well, why fly him? You find a place in the desert.
Yep. You know, the coyotes, remember that night? Even Brian Enton was out on the street and the coyotes went ballistic.
Yeah, they got him on video. Yeah, or at least the audio.
I thought that too. Well, that was the last one, everybody. You did it. 4 hours.
3.5.
3.5 hours.
Can I just
add hours?
I just want to add to that discussion that one of the comments I made in passing on some show got picked up by the media, and all over the place there were these headlines like, you know, Doc offers grim assessment, and, you know, and what I had said was that I think it's extremely improbable that they will ever find an intact body. And the reason is, knowing what I know about contemporary offenders, is that there is an increasing proclivity, and I really mean that, increasing proclivity to eliminate as much as you can of a body through burning or butchery or so forth. Does anybody here think that there's an intact body buried somewhere, if she's deceased, that's going to be found? I mean, usually they're left out in the elements or dismantled or burned.
I think the dogs.
Right. Or submerged.
The animals. Yeah. The animals.
Right. I know it's grim. Right. Well, the reason I mention it is because what I wanted to ask you guys, my question is, I know you want to end, but my question is, do you think the absence of a body is part of what is preventing progressing in this case? In other words, how much of a problem is that? Because I know in that state, after a certain amount of time, even without a body, you can declare somebody, you know. So, but I'm just curious because I saw it in the chat too. Like, the problem is there's no body. Is that really an issue? Because that's something you guys would know. I don't know in my field the answer to that question.
Not if you have a body leaving the house on video. It's a no-brainer. At that point, if she's seen on video with the suspect leaving the house, guess what? There was a body. Now the defense has to prove where that body is.
Right. But if nobody is ever found and there is no footage, how much of a problem is that?
Again, it's going to, okay, if there's no footage,
Right.
then it won't be, that won't be a problem, because if you have an 84-year-old woman that you have all the cardiology, it'll become a medical case. They'll go back and they'll pull all of her cardiology records. They'll pull those pacemaker monitors, and they'll show at 2:30 in the morning that thing was working. And then at whatever that time frame is, that next moment, it ended. It stopped. Okay. Well, now that's on the defense, to show that it's still working.
Well, let's face it, if somebody gets charged, the defense is going to try to prove that it was the heart that caused the death, not an intentional homicide. I mean, I can see that if there is a charge here, you can just envision
Absolutely.
the experts being paraded on every station talking about cardiology. I could smell it from a mile away. That's going to turn out to be a big deal.
This will be a medical case, and you know what else it will be? Here, there are going to be two lanes of defense. It's going to be a medical case, and they're going to attack the cops, and they're going to attack the process. That will be it.
You think?
But Gary, are you saying that because there's no body, that it makes it more difficult to get an indictment or a prosecution? Is that your question?
That's what the chat has asked a few times, and to tell you the truth, that's really a question for you guys more. And I found myself wondering about that. And I mean, I don't know if it's maybe even more a question for an attorney that knows Arizona law, but so that's an interesting question. And then the second question being, how much is this heart story going to play out if they do charge? Because you'd have to demonstrate a willful, intentional taking of her life to go, like, I mean, do you have capital? Do you have capital crimes in Arizona? Do you have death penalty?
Yes, it's a death penalty state.
I mean, it would be rough to be able to, I mean, you'd have to be able to prove that you intentionally took her life. And I know I could just picture the defense saying, her heart stopped. That kind of thing. Don't you guys smell that coming down the pipe?
Sure.
For your first question, there are many no-body prosecutions for murder. Maya Maletti is a great example. The husband's on trial right now. They never found Maya's body. He's on trial for murder. California.
Is it
Southern California.
The same every state?
No. I mean, it's up to the prosecutor to seek the death penalty in states that have it.
And even federally, I did some research on this a few weeks ago. Federally, 75% of these no-body cases that the feds prosecute, they win the case. So it's a pretty good conviction rate.
But it's not possible without a body to do an autopsy and determine the actual cause of death. This is going to get very tricky. Because I think that's the whole problem here, is that whole thing with the pacemaker may turn out to be a gift to whoever it is that killed her, which then raises the question, did some clever person send a note saying, we're sorry that your mother had a weak heart, precisely because the person was anticipating that defense? Is an interesting question, and we're not the first people to ask that question. I think I've heard that elsewhere, but it's a really intriguing point. Because that would make more sense than being sensitive, sending the note because you're sensitive. I mean, that doesn't make, you know what I mean? The Hallmark card, that you send it doesn't make any sense. But I'm starting to think about that because I think they are going to indict someone. I really do. I think they've got someone potentially on the radar that we don't know about, and are waiting for the person to trip up or something. But I think that if a charge is made, this is going to come up.
I totally agree, and I also agree that they're working suspect or suspects still.
I haven't heard anybody else talk about that, about the potential defense aspects of the pacemaker, but I can see that being the story. Karen, doesn't that sound like a story waiting to happen?
It does, potentially, yes.
But
I mean, it all depends on how this goes, but yes, the media will make hay of it, of course.
Yeah. Again, though, those pacemakers are monitored.
Yes.
So, and even though like right now, okay, let's say here we are, they find her tomorrow, okay, and the thing is still moving, okay. Well, the decomp, she's just, in the desert hypothetically somewhere, if she is, okay, the decomp alone, okay, that device is useless, okay, and if it's still monitoring, okay, well, it's not monitoring a heartbeat, it's flatlined, and that alone, you could introduce those charts as evidence of no life. The defense can say, well, we don't have a body, so therefore we don't know if she's deceased. The prosecution can stand up and say, well, actually, Your Honor, we do. We have her charts right here. We have her cardiac charts. And guess what? Look at this, Your Honor. It hasn't moved for 104 days. It just looks like a straight line. Because remember what a pacemaker is. It's to monitor the heart. Well, when the heart stops beating, it stops monitoring. It's not rocket science.
Right. But if without an autopsy they can't demonstrate the cause of death, assuming the likely probability that she's deceased, what would they charge?
Well, they could say the manner of death is cardiac event.
Right. But would not have happened were it not for
cause of death under the circumstances would be homicide. And
right.
and so you force the defense to prove that it's not a homicide.
Although going in with a gun and all that certainly suggests.
Exactly. It's not like he entered the house at 2 o'clock in the morning to say, come on, we're going to Disney World.
Yeah.
It's
the Culligan man.
Yeah, the circumstantial evidence is what's going to nail this guy. But I could see a jury saying, I mean, the right kind of jury, I could see them saying, well, involuntary manslaughter or something. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But there are all kinds of things they could charge here, right? I mean, even the breaking into the house.
All kinds of stuff. Yeah. This is a great point. Yes, we know it continues to work. Okay. But it only monitors heartbeats. Okay. When that heart stops, it's still looking at it going, where's the heart? It's still working, but where's the heart?
The sound of one hand clapping.
Yeah. So, okay, we got one more and we're out. 2 a.m. dogs barking, no cameras, caught car at the early morning. Why not? Something is off. We agree. She could have left.
She could have never left.
Oh, because she could have never left the neighborhood until safe hour to move her. Something is off. What a great point.
Thank you, Evie.
Thank you, Evie. What a great name, too. All right, you guys. Any thoughts, feelings, or emotions? Equal behavior.
Sorry, I couldn't see at CrimeCon.
Oh, we had amazing.
We'll get you at the next one, Gary.
Yep.
Yeah, I think because of our book, we may wind up gathering there.
Tell everybody about the book, Gary.
Well, the McFarland Books has a line, a true crime line called Exposit, which is pretty new. They were the publishers of another member of our foundation's book, Anna Salter's book that came out recently, Confronting Malice. They're a very, very good line. And they're going to be putting out a book that Chris and I are the editors on which Chris and I are the editors. Let's make it look like we know our grammar if we're editors. The idea is that it's, there's a kind of intro by John Douglas, who's, instrumental in the organization. And then the leadership and multiple members of the foundation talk about their respective areas of expertise, look at some historical cases through the lenses that are used by the foundation, talk about our work with Native Americans, talk about DNA, talk about arson, talk about blood, and each chapter is a sort of standalone in many ways. I think I could really picture the book being used for teaching purposes. I have to say, it has some pretty remarkable stuff in it. For example, the best exposition I've ever seen on the filters that are used by the foundation. I thought that people are going to love that, the profiling breakdown and some really cool stuff. That's the book that has the chapter that Ann Burgess and I did comparing Lizzie Borden to the Menendez case that she was on, and a lot of other fun stuff is in there. So, Francine Bardole talks about Jack the Ripper. People are going to love it. And all of the proceeds will go to the foundation, which means that the purchase of the book will directly affect the lives of victims' families in terms of helping to solve cases. I mean, I think we have 17 authors, and not a single one of us wanted a penny, which I think really speaks to the kind of people that are in the foundation, why Chris and I are so proud of our relations with them, our connection with them. And we will announce when it's available to buy online, and hopefully everybody will do that before it even comes out. And then hopefully at this Orlando CrimeCon, we'll maybe get to sit at a table and meet the fans and sign it and talk about it. I can't have all 17 of us. I mean, they'll have to get a clown car for us or something, drag us down there crammed into it. But maybe a couple of us, But the authorship really is, in many ways, I'm proud to say, a kind of who's who in the true crime community, because there's some really, really prominent names on there. And any permutation of the authors that went to CrimeCon would be a wonderful thing. I mean, to meet those people, because it was an honor to work with all of them. So anyway, I hope people are excited about it. And in the meantime, thank you for buying John's books and my book and my books. And thank you, Chris, for giving an opportunity to talk about them.
Always, John, your books?
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about me, my books?
Yes, sir.
I have no books, so he's got to be talking about you.
Yeah.
Book of Dano.
Horrible show. By the way, Hawaii 5-0, if you ever want to see something amazing, Jack Lord, Inspector McGarrett, he only wears half a shoulder holster. If you see it, there's half shoulder holster with a gun in it. There's no strap that holds it on the other side. So we had special shirts made for the show with a holster on it. So that's what I think of. That was shellacked hair. I'm hoping my new book will be out next month. There was some copy editing that needed to be done and a little extra writing. I was very fortunate to get wonderful cover quotes from Chris and Gary and Diane Fanning. And it'll be called Bring Out Your Dead. I want to thank everybody who had bought the first two books in the series, Service with a Sneer and Beach Blanket Bedlam. Bring Out Your Dead will be a lot of focusing on homicide cases and essay cases I worked. And I want to thank you for having me here, Chris. And I would really like to go to Orlando. Next year. We could all get together and see how quickly we could be thrown out of a hotel.
Absolutely. We'll even bring Bob.
Well, I may be out drowning a worm, but we'll take a look.
Drowning a worm. That's so funny. By the way, did you guys have Buddy with you?
We sure did.
Yes. We showed a video.
Did.
He was at CrimeCon?
Oh, he loved it.
Yep. Buddy's made us. This is his second CrimeCon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to get him a badge next year.
Do a lot of people want pictures with him?
Yes. A few. Yeah. Yes. I think we got people to take pictures with Buddy.
Yeah. But Budzo's, people love him more than they love us. And for rightfully so. Not necessarily Karen, but me. But anyway, what do you say?
Well, thank you, panel.
Thank you, guys.
Dr. Gary, John,
Aloha.
and Bob.
Thanks to the mods. Thanks to everybody who commented.
Mods as well. They're amazing.
Thank you, everyone.
Love you guys. Thank you
Good
to
night.
our family. See you on the next one.
Okay.
Aloha.
Bye,
Have a
guys.
good night.
Hard working every day, I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts, wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah, yeah. Make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away, you and me, go to our favorite place. Feeling the sun on my face in Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. I need a summer breeze, some fresh air to put my mind at ease. No cares. You wanna come with me? Me and you go to our favorite tree. Are you ready now? We jump on a plane now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. Don't hesitate now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. We'll never come down. We're going away. Yeah, we're going away. You and me. Feeling the sun on my face in a way.